Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live session. We're getting up there. I think we're about at almost 80 lives, which just kind of blows my mind, but obviously always super excited to show up for this audience. And as always, we will get to all the questions today. So before we do that, let's just chat about a few things. Let's go into our very, very simplistic intro. So if this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. I am an interview coach and negotiation coach at practiceinterviews.com. And at practiceinterviews.com, we offer both of those services today. If you use the coupon code GET, G-E-T in caps, you get $100 off our interview mastery course. That's just till 11:59 Pacific time today. So let's take a step back. Yesterday's video. One of the most critical areas that my clients and candidates fall down in general is just a lack of data in their answers on the behavioral side. So I really wanted to dive and chop a little bit more into the areas where you could go through the data and then go through that previous example that I had shared in another video. If we can highlight a few critical data points when we're answering behavioral questions, it's just going to be really impactful. If you didn't have a chance to check out that video, definitely check it out. Embedding data in those examples is going to be key to your success. So let's talk about the title. And we're going to spend, my best guess is we are going to spend some time talking about the Google hiring slowdown. That article literally popped, I think it was last Wednesday morning, right before the live. And it did come up in the live last week. I'm seeing a trend, right? That trend is definitely happening at Google. There is a slowdown. I even got an additional data point yesterday from recruiting that they were even putting a pause on what they're doing with Google Cloud for a couple weeks. So there's all sorts of things going on. I have seen some positions going away. It is getting a little scary. There's a little bit of an unknown there. So it's something that we can chat about today, and I'm happy to chat about. With these slowdowns, I never really believe it because I always feel like they're just going to charge forward. Obviously, Google, Meta, all these big companies, they have huge hiring needs. So I don't think it'll be a total slowdown, but we definitely are seeing the trends and the data showing that. So happy to answer any questions around that from what I've seen. And please, any comments, anything that anybody in this audience is seeing about the slowdown, please share, because every data point is just going to be valuable for the overall community. I think that's it. Lastly, if you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. I do a new content video every other Tuesday. It usually comes out around noon, sometimes a little later, like yesterday. And then I go live every week at 10 a.m. Pacific. Let's dive into the questions. Lastly, I will get to all the questions, so no need to repeat. I will go in order. If I miss your question, feel free to yell at me, okay? Thanks so much. Hi, Jeff. Love your videos. Okay, you have an RRK interview next week for strategy and ops associate with Android. You have a few questions. Okay. In the RRK interview, how much sector knowledge would be expected? I come from consulting and have never specifically worked in the tech sector. Okay, that's a non-issue. After applying, I was directly offered an RRK interview with the HM with no recruiter screen, and I was also told that the process will only involve 3 interviews, RRK, GCA, and GNL. Is this typical? It is typical for some roles that they're really trying to focus in on the law of diminishing returns. More interviews does not yield better results. It just usually muddies the waters a little bit. So yep, that's common. And how does the hiring slowdown actually work? Will this have impact on new roles which haven't been advertised yet, or will it also impact roles that were advertising before? All of them. So all of them could be impacted, but remember, we don't know, right? We don't know what's going on internally in the business and what are the biggest needs. So all you can focus in on is crushing these interviews. And I would say, just based on the fact that it's within Android, really start to learn and understand the Android ecosystem. Your depth doesn't need to be great, but you want to understand the Android platform and how it works, and be looking at iOS and how their platform works to just really understand it a little bit more. Good luck. Okay, we got Iric Somerville. If you have been hanging out with me for a while, some people in this audience come back time and time. Iric was my product slash program manager for year and a half. Super, super smart looking. He'll be on the cover of Fortune one of these days. So remember this name. And now he's popping back to his meetings. Thanks for coming in, Iric, even though I know you're not here anymore. Hi, Jeff. My last executive interview for ABP was on July 1st. You reached out on July 8th and you were told they're still making a decision to send on who to send to HC. It would let me know. Should I email for an update? Yeah, now's the time. Yeah, I would definitely email and check it. My profile was put on hold due to instructions from upper levels. Does this mean hiring freeze? It was my final round of interview. I would ask for a little bit more clarity. I think it's okay to go back to your recruiter and ask, is this part of the hiring slowdown? Is this headcount being lost? Because we don't want to attribute everything, every piece of the process stopping at any company to a larger news item that just says everything's slowing down. It could be just a one-off case. Not everything's going to be attributed to the larger slowdown. And remember, it's not a freeze. It's just they're slowing down hiring a little bit. Got some good news, bad news yesterday. Okay, the good is that after my team match and multiple leadership interview rounds, you were approved at HCL5 for a privacy PM role. Okay, awesome. Bad news is that they can't extend an offer at this time, is that they're still working out whether the role is part of the priorities of the hiring or if the role is frozen. Okay. Any thoughts on whether I should ask for another round of team matching if the role is frozen for the foreseeable future? Is this going to be common? I think it will be a little bit more common. Okay, so we got to get ready for this a little bit. Ask how long you should be waiting. Ask your recruiter, hey, does it make sense for me to do other team matches? Is this just an impact within this team, or is this within the larger scope of these types of roles? Always fair to ask. I think sometimes we avoid asking the questions, but this is a control item. We got to take control. We're not always getting the best communication from our recruiters. So I would go back and ask, I'm sorry to hear that. I know that there will be a future opportunity for you. I just can't say when. Got positive feedback from on-site plus HM interviews, but now the recruiter is saying they will fill the position with an internal resource and she will try to find another team before going to HC. She's also saying there's very limited visual design opportunities. Any thoughts on this? Yeah, I mean, visual design is not a big space, so I definitely understand that there will be limited opportunities, and they're probably just trying to set the tone that, like, hey, maybe they can't find anything else for you. Losing out to an internal, I mean, sometimes this is common. It's a pretty safe move for a known entity to take the role over somebody who's been external. So just hang out, see what you can do, and build that strong relationship with the recruiter, right? Figure out that cadence. How often can I check in with you? Once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, etc. HK, okay. Hi, thanks for interacting with us. Sure, I love doing this. This is really fun for me. Hi, Vishal. Okay. Your RRK was scheduled today. The recruiter came in 10 minutes late. After that, I gave my introduction, and just after that interview, said that something urgent came up. Okay, I'm looking for the second one here. Okay, here we go. Later, my interview was canceled. The recruiter called and said, Google Cloud, the hiring is completely on hold for 3 to 4 weeks minimum. Should I keep up any hopes? Yeah, so, okay, this is an interesting data point. Again, we're going to just try and like take a moment and capture these data points as they come in. I got data that it was 2 weeks yesterday. So 3 to 4 weeks, okay. The tricky thing with this is I don't believe that Google Cloud will be on a total freeze. And the reason why is that it's a big revenue generator for them. And so they're probably just trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to prioritize the specific hires that we want to make within GCP for the rest of the year? So I still think that there's a good likelihood that they could move forward. I also think that as you think about recession and all these buzzwords and inflation and all these things we hear, well, companies still need cloud services, right? And it's not like they're taking on this big extra cost to bring on cloud. There might be some initial cost, but over time, cloud is intended to be cost effective or at least cost flat, right? So I can't see that the current economic conditions impacting cloud too much because this is just where we're going as a world. So I think there's still some opportunities there. So just hang out, hang in there, and just make sure that you're following up with your recruiter, okay? I have an offer from another company, and I called the Google recruiter this morning for an update on my status. She said the team match will probably take longer than normal because the hiring slowdown. I want to continue with Google process, but I also want to be mindful about not prolonging the other offer, especially if it takes weeks or more. What should I do? Should I take the competing offer with the uncertainty of Google taking longer? I think you have to. I think this is going to be my recommendation across the board. If you have an offer in hand and you're trying to wait on Google, I would make this recommendation normally, right? Because Google is really, really slow, but it's going to be even slower now. So you got to take that other offer. If Google comes back and you have to rescind or you have to walk out of that job after a month, I know it's not ideal. Burning bridges is never ideal, but we have to go after what we want in life. And so that might end up being the case, but I would accept that offer now. I don't see Google moving really quickly right now because of everything that's happening. So that's just my recommendation. Good luck. Just another thanks for all you do in the content, Jeff. You signed a SWE offer at Google, and I'm happy largely with your videos and Q&A. Folks, smash that like button. Thanks so much, Joseph. Obviously, again, we go through this every week. I just sincerely appreciate people showing up. And the bigger part of this is it shows the community that it's possible, because sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming, whether it's Google or any other big company, to just get through the gauntlet of this interview process. So congrats, Joseph. Thank you. Okay. Thanks for all your videos. I recently had on-site interviews and I used the method I learned for your videos in the Googliness interview. Okay, great. Let's see if there's any additional there. Okay, let's go here. Recently, hiring committee approved my application. You have a call with a recruiter this Friday. What can you expect from the call? They're going to expect you to bring in your compensation salary expectations. Anchor high. If you want to come back and tell us more, maybe we can help you set that anchor. Okay, but definitely expect to be talking about comp in that conversation. I've applied for a PM role, asking for 12 years of experience. HR said level is yet to be determined. Do we have different levels in program manager? I have 17 years of experience in the relevant field. Yeah, I mean, 12 years of experience. Anytime we see years of experience in a job description, let's take 12. It's a recommendation. It's a suggestion. Could you get that job with 9 or 10 years? Yeah. Could you get that job with 25 years? Yeah. So the years of experience is just to cast some boundaries around the type of candidate that they're looking for in the role. That's all. Okay. So it sounds appropriate. Google is investing heavily in cloud within delivery centers outside of the US. I'm actually joining as a program manager in Argentina. Oh, amazing. Great videos, by the way. Okay. Really good to know. Of course, we'd love the data points. So if anybody has data points, please bring them on. And anytime I see Argentina, I have to mention that Buenos Aires is basically my favorite city in the world. So I don't know where you're at in Argentina, but love Argentina. Had an engineering leadership interview at Meta on July 6th. The director interviewing me really probed on my views on PIP. PIP is a performance improvement plan. Seemed to want to know if I'd be a hatchet man, maybe an indicator of the future. Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they were taking that approach. Maybe usually when we get these kinds of questions and interviewers get fixated on something, especially at the leadership level, maybe it's because the past manager or past management had maybe not wanted to put people on a PIP. Being put on a PIP it's good if that person can't perform and it's reasonable. So Yeah, really, really interesting, but I can't say for sure. But usually when we push on something so specific like that, it's because in the past, maybe the person was putting too many people on pips or not enough people on pips. Just approved for an L4 Google for PM interviewing for L5. I was told with the slowdown it will be 2 weeks before I'm able to have my profile shared. I have a competing offer at a healthcare company, non-tech, for a principal PM role. 5 years of consulting experience, MBA, 3 years of corporate, okay, and 1 year, okay. Let's see if this keeps going. Sometimes these LinkedIn posts get pulled. Okay, so it looks like there's not a second part to this, Adam, so you might have to come back. I'm not really sure what the question is, but if you're really interested in this other company, again, it's going to be hard to. My recommendation is going to be to move forward with these other companies. There's just too much ambiguity and unknown at Google. It doesn't mean that I want you to take that opportunity if it's not great. If we have an offer in hand and it's great, and if Google wasn't on the table, we'd take it, then I recommend taking it. I hope that helps, but if you have more questions, please come back and ask more. What is the behind the scene of a CV when applying to the position? All reviewed by human first or robot? It's usually a mix of, there are some systems in place to screen resumes. There is some human intervention, and one of the biggest things you're looking to do is make a unique resume for every single job you apply for. Let's pause. That sounds overwhelming, ridiculous, annoying, but what we're really looking to do is the top of your resume should have a bulleted summary. Those bullets should be extremely lean, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. And then for each new position we apply for, we're just going to date it, give the title of the job we're applying for, and switch out the bullets to bring in the key responsibilities, requirements of that position as long as we have them. That way you'll hit on more keyword searches and it will just show up a little bit better. And this could be for Google or any company. Just always be switching out that bulleted summary for every unique position. It takes 5 minutes and it could have a large impact. Recently, hiring committee approved my application. You have a call. Oh, sorry, we answered that question. Thanks for your videos. You're able to clear Google interviews and you're joining Google next month as a TAM. Awesome. Congrats. I love the TAM role. And I'm such a fan of these roles that are a hybrid of technical and client facing, because it allows you to really utilize your technical skills, but also your communication skills. And the TAM roles are just super fun. Good luck. Slow will be for many months. Will it affect cybersecurity? There's no part of the organization that won't be impacted a little bit, but I think what I want to just acknowledge is we can't say that it's going to be like this. I think there is going to be an impact, but we don't know how large it is because it's brand new. But will it affect cybersecurity? Probably a little bit, but is cybersecurity a critical part of the business? Absolutely it is. So I can't say how much, but again, I don't know that any part of the business won't be impacted, but cybersecurity is one of the more important areas, obviously. You have a solution architect interview at Meta next week. Need some tips for the architectural design interview. So when I think about any sort of design interview, I like CFAS. I know it may seem like a stretch to the more technical people in this group or in this live, but we got to clarify. When we get a question, there is going to be some ambiguity when it comes to design. So we got to clarify that. Then we want to set the design, which is very similar to a framework. What are the 3, 4, 5 areas that we want to focus in regards to our design? Then we pick one and we make some assumptions, and then we dive into solving for that component of the design. So the CFAS method really does work on the design side. Now, for architectural design, you're really going to have to focus in on your skill set to have success there, because I'm not an architect, but obviously architects come in and really help build and implement on the front end. So something to think about, but I'm sure you're already aware of that as somebody who's an expert in the space. Good luck. Hi, Jeff. I'm at the scheduling stage. Is it pragmatic to delay the interviews till the end of August, or should I stab at it ASAP? It's up to you. It depends on how you're prepared. But remember, we can always ask the recruiter the question, and they don't always know the answer. But am I putting anything at risk by delaying the interviews? Yes or no? They should at least have somewhat of a pulse. But I think there is going to be some unknowns with the hiring slowdown. What do you think about a 2-column resume, like fancy new resume design? I hate it. I don't like it. So here's why I don't like it. For most of us, and again, it depends on what part of the world you're in, but we read left to right or right to left. And for a lot of us, it's left to right, right? So we're reading left to right, and then you split it, and then I got to go up and down. I got to go left to right. You're making my brain work too hard. You don't want to do that. Your audience is going to have such a limited amount of time to look at your resume. Standard, simplistic, and boring. I want your resume to be boring, but I want it to be highlighting those key items. The bulleted summary. In your experience, I'm really looking for a mix of job responsibilities and accomplishments because I want to know what you did on a daily basis, but also what you accomplished. This is my own philosophy. You're going to get a million pieces of advice, but I do want it to be very standardized, very simplistic. Don't make your audience's brain work harder than they need to work. The average resume is going to get about 3 to 5 seconds. So keep that in mind. So if they're looking to here and up and down, there's your 5 seconds. So obviously I feel very strongly about this item. Thanks for all your content and negotiation services. My G offer is signed and I'm headed to New Albany. Again, thank you. Absolutely, James. I wish you the best of luck. Get after it. Crush it. Thanks so much for coming into the community and letting us know. Hey, Jeff, you were rejected from HC as an L4 SWE. Your recruiter said he would shop your packet around to a few teams and set up meetings to go back to HC with a statement of support. Okay. He said that this has worked in the past. What are the chances of passing HC after already being rejected from HC? Yeah, I can't say for sure, but obviously if you get a hiring manager on board about your profile, it helps because they can validate maybe a couple of the areas that when you went to HC first that didn't have a statement of support, and the hiring manager could say, you know, this syntax error, this error, that error, we can easily train on those items, etc. So don't worry too much about it. But I can't control the success rate, but I do like that your recruiter is willing to work with you. That's a great sign. It means that the feedback is pretty good and you were probably pretty close in HC. Good luck. Hey, Jeff, I had my RRK and GNL interview and there's only a GCA left. Do you have any advice? My advice for the GCA interview is always the same. Wear the hat of the role. You need to make sure that you're solving, not just to solve, but you're solving like you're in the position already. That is critical. Really need to follow the CFAS method for the open-ended questions. And I don't know what's going on, but in the last week, especially on our Slack group, seeing a tremendous trend toward more behavioral questions in GCA interviews. Probably just a coincidence, but remember, you might get behavioral questions as well. Quick pitch for the Slack group. I was thinking a lot about this last night as I was answering some of the questions. You know, we have over 3,000 people in the Slack group. It's free. The community is keeping each other up. I'm not always going to be able to get to those questions on a daily basis, but the community can. People are practicing with each other. People are DMing each other and helping each other out. It's free. So I recommend it if you want to join, and you can do that by visiting practiceinterviews.com. Thank you so much, Jeff, for the amazing content in the live stream. You're awesome. You finished the account strategist interviews for a specific team in Dublin. Okay. Had your first interview with the HM and your recruiter told you it went well. Then you completed the remaining 2 interviews a week ago. HM is on a long vacation and will be back at the end of August. Okay. May I know the result before HM returns to the office? Also, if there will be no HC, how will my recruitment be decided? Will HM approve or will candidates be judged based on interview scores? So ideally, if it's a good hiring manager, they pre-planned and they said, well, I really like that candidate. If they pass the other interviews, I'd be willing to hire them. You may skip HC and just go to the offer review stage, which is more simplistic. Your recruiter should really be telling you that. But could they push forward with that hiring manager out on a longer vacation? Yeah, absolutely they could. Just make sure that you're really, really staying in touch with that recruiter and that they're just gonna help you throughout. Okay. I hope that helps. If you have any additional questions, let me know. And I'm really hoping to get to Dublin soon. I've worked with so many people in Dublin and really need to make it out there, visit that office, get some of that free food. So hopefully I'll see you out there in the future. I saw jobs posted that I applied to being taken down on LinkedIn and the job board this week. I'm assuming those are on hold or gone away due to the economy. Some. If there's a pretty active pipeline, then sometimes they'll just pull it down for that reason. So it's probably that, and then probably a mix of that, and then a mix of the slowdown. Now, the slowdown could be a bigger driver, but it's probably a little bit of both. Turkey hat. Okay. If anybody saw the live back in November of last year, I wore a turkey hat during that live. Check it out. I honestly don't remember what we discussed in that live, but similar Q&A. Okay. You're surprised that Google didn't decline all applicants for those positions. Okay. Well, so remember the cost of a hire. So you have the recruiter, you have the interviewers, you have the hiring manager, you have the recruiting coordinator, you have the sourcer, you have HC, you have offer review. So applicants in the process, it's very expensive just to hire one person. So some applicants will be shut out of the process while they're in process, but others won't. And again, that just depends on business needs. And I honestly just don't think that they totally have it figured out, and they will. They'll figure it out over the coming months, and not all positions are going to go away, and some are going to be put on hold, and it's going to be funky. It's just not going to be so straightforward. Like X number of positions are going to be slowed down or put on hold, and Y positions will stay open. It's going to be a little bit more fluid than that. So just be ready for anything, and all we can do is just stay in touch with our points of contact and just stay positive, because the hiring will re-ramp, and I think it will happen sooner than people expect. Cleared interviews for SWE L3 in the US in May, currently in Poland. Had 14 match meetings total, accepted by one team and went to HC, but the result was on hold because the team lost headcount. After that, rejected by two teams, then received information from the recruiter about the slowdown, and the process might take a long time. Recruiter works in platforms and ecosystems, and you said this organization needs SWEs. Oops, sorry. Do you think I have a chance, or should I start looking for other opportunities? I'm interviewing only with Google because it's hard to get interviews in the US while living in Poland. Yes, I agree with that. Really utilize your recruiter. Take their guidance. Their guidance is going to be super powerful and helpful for you because they're internal to the organization, so they're going to know more. Right. So this is a tricky situation, but you've done great work. Like, you've gotten to this team matching stage. You've already identified one team. So it not only shows that you have the technical skills, but that you're able to really have good conversations and find team matches. So just make sure you're continuing to build that strong relationship with your recruiter. Are Google Associate Product Manager roles for new graduates out of university only? Can I apply with 9 years of experience from a different background? Yep. Yeah, you should be able to apply and tell that story that you're looking to make a shift. Sophie, I think we were talking about this last week or the week before. I'm pretty sure. Just go for it. Okay. Don't hold back. Sorry, everybody. My light goes on and off here. See if we can get it back on. Okay, there it goes. I would say just go for it. There's no need to overthink it. Just dive in, apply for that role, and see what happens. But with roles and levels, it's typically years of experience in a like role. So if you don't have product manager experience, then an associate level role would be appropriate. And the thing I like also is that sometimes we need to take a step back or two steps back to move forward. I've done that in my career numerous times, right? And that can be a really, really positive way to take the next steps in your career. So I would just say trust it and go for it, okay? At the 30s, I'm always going to do a quick check-in, practiceinterviews.com. We have interview coaching, negotiation coaching. The ROI on the negotiation coaching is crazy, and almost all my clients would tell you that. If you use the code GET, G-E-T in all caps, you get $100 off the interview mastery course till 11:59 Pacific time today. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. And if you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. How much should I anchor L3 SWE Bay Area? I would definitely be anchoring into the high 2s, low 3s. Most likely your year one's going to round out around 250, 260 in year one. Hi, Jeff. I joined AWS this week. Gave my Google SWE last week. I got an offer from Google. Can I postpone the offer and join after a couple months since I've already joined AWS? Probably not. Yeah, so you're going to have to make a tough decision, and thanks so much for sharing. These are tricky scenarios. If you feel like Google is your preferred company, you're going to have to burn a bridge at AWS. Just make sure that you maximize that offer with Google to make sure that that move is really the best move for you, but they're not going to delay the offer for you. So you need to make a tough decision, and good luck. I was asked to fill the packet on July 7th. From that, I'm waiting for outcomes. I've cleared all the rounds. Okay. I'm just seeing if there's any follow-up here. Okay. Just make sure now that we're at the 20th, and that was been almost 2 weeks, just check in to see where you're at in the process. Okay. It's always okay to check in, especially because it's been a couple of weeks. Following up from last week, US L4 SWE, recruiter confirmed engineering not slowing, just need to be patient. GCP apparently still the hottest place to get hired. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because again, we've seen two indications, one that I got yesterday and one from somebody in the community today, that GCP is putting a little bit of a hold. I think that that is just getting their ducks in a row. Because again, I think GCP is going to be hot. It's a huge revenue generator. So what does that mean? We don't shut down roles that generate revenue. What does that mean? GCP and ads. Those are the two biggest revenue generators for Google. So I feel like those will have the smallest impact. And what's the biggest type of hire they make still to this date? Engineers. So keep us posted on what's going on, but that's just what we've heard. Okay, you were approved for an L6, Infomod, CE, and past leadership and googliness and cognitive rounds, but RRK was not deep enough. A colleague referred me to the role at Looker for SMB CE, and I'm concerned. Okay, the role may not be what I'm looking for. I do, however, see it as a way to enter Google at level 6 and develop my cloud expertise to reapply for Infomod or something similar. Does this sound like a wise plan? Also, the colleague who referred me, so weird. I'm sorry. I just think it's a StreamYard issue, and StreamYard, the platform, and LinkedIn, I don't know why they don't work together, but I can tell you, James, that I do think it's a good plan. Okay. It sounds like you're already on the path. You just need to hit that RRK for this other position. The other two interviews will be transferable. So I just say go for it and just see. That's my recommendation. If you have more comments, sorry, I don't know why LinkedIn gets cut off like this. I had my last interview in less than an hour. I'm nervous and excited, crossing fingers to pass it with flying colors. Okay, so less than an hour, so I'm assuming that that's an 11 a.m. Pacific time. If you're still watching now, stop. Shut this off. Go meditate. Go relax. If you're fortunate enough to have a yard, go walk around your yard. Get to that Zen state of mind. I don't want you using your brain at all for the next 26 minutes. All the data science shows that we need to give our brain breaks to have maximum brain capacity. And so, especially before an interview, just don't prep right up until it. Take a break. Let us come back next week and let us know how it goes. You have 4 years of experience and finished your Google on-sites for SWE and cleared HC as well. I later got to know that my recruiter handles only L3 roles. Recruiter joined Google only 3 months back. Okay. Recruiter says she was not aware of the process for L4. Should I push her to resubmit my packet to HC? Is that a possibility? Can I make a case again for team match at L4? I think you can. I think you really can push back. I don't like, this is kind of weird to me that a recruiter would only be able to hire for L3, because I hired SWEs and I hired 3 to 7. So it's just, that sounds weird, but again, I'm not there anymore. So yeah, I think it's fair to ask if you can push for a 4. Just really graciousness and kindness, and make sure what's going on, and just ask them lots of questions. Okay. Yes, good luck. Is there an open post at Google that lists any advanced degrees, master's, MBA under preferred qualifications? Is that a must before applying? Typically, no. There are some positions, more of what I've seen is maybe like on the research side of things, or maybe like heavy data analytics side of things, where, it might be master's or PhD preferred. I'm sure it hits a bunch of other roles, but most roles, as long as you have a bachelor's, and that's not even always necessary, you should be fine. But don't worry too much about the master's. It's not as important as it used to be. I'm in school, so yeah, but I'd still like to get the job in Google in the future, and I need to know which are the basic I need to know to get the job in the future. Okay, well, one of the biggest things that's missing from those that are in school, whether it's high school or college, is that they don't spend any time learning how to interview. And this would be a skill that I would just encourage you to learn over time. Continue to practice your interview skills in whatever facet that might be. If you're a software engineer, then you should be hopping on things like Lead Code and practicing with other people. If you're non-technical, you should just be practicing with other people in general. But too much of our education system, I know especially in the US, has missed this opportunity to teach critical interviewing skills. And that's really important to get jobs in the future, and can make a big difference in terms of happiness, money, etc. So I would just say the fact that you're even here is the best start. Start ingesting content, really understand what it looks like to interview, and you'll be off to a good start. What is the advice for a phone interview for a program manager, Google Cloud? Yeah, the phone interview is usually going to be domain and program management. So make sure you have both. Make sure you're bringing that good GCP knowledge and good foundational program management knowledge into that phone interview. And just know that phone interviews are weird, right? Like, we all have these hiccups where we just don't connect with somebody on the phone. So just make sure you're building in a little extra space and pauses just to allow your interviewer to talk, because we can't see them. Those would be my few recommendations. Good luck. Hi, Jeff. I love your videos. Completed 4 rounds of interviews, and you've already completed comp discussions for a strategy role in the APAC region. Okay. Let's see if there's any follow-up there. Okay. Well, wish you the best of luck. Remember, on those comp discussions, continue to push as much as you can. Interviewing for a CE for GCP, strong hire on Googliness and RRK. I got a no hire for GCA. You winged it. After studying for my GCA and waiting for a reschedule. Okay, let's see, Jake, if there's another piece. The recruiter told me 2-week freeze for all cloud positions. They just reached out for the GCA retake next week. We are going to see a lot of this. Pause, no pause, start, stop. We just got to get comfortable with this. It's just going to happen quite a bit. When you go back for that GCA, answer wearing the hat of the role and use the CFAS method. Winging the GCA interview is, it's pretty tough for most of us normal human beings. Hey, Jeff, what does it mean when a candidate has been tagged by comp negotiations and thus requiring further approval to get some additional bump? Is that a good or bad thing? That's a good thing. If they are willing to escalate your case higher, it means they're willing to push. And usually when they escalate and they say, hey, we're going to tag your case and see if we can push, always in those cases, like my clients are getting more, because when it goes to the higher level of approval, they almost always will push for more. So it's a good sign. Absolutely. And just keep us updated, Ron. Come back and let us know how it goes. Hi, Jeff. Would you disqualify a candidate that is working with different recruiters? For example, one or more recruiters send you a resume for the same candidate. I think, I'm not really sure of this question, but these recruiters should be working together. So if they can't do it, you need to introduce that and say, hey, it looks like I'm getting contacted by multiple recruiters. I just want to make sure you're working together, or I don't know what the process is, whatever company you're going after. Just make sure that you're owning it and taking control. When recruiters don't do their jobs, we need to take control for them, right? And so much of that can be questioning, asking, because remember, you're not supposed to know. That's not your job. That's their job. Okay. I hope that helps. Okay. So Benny, we've been over this a little bit of back and forth on YouTube. So I want to make sure I'm giving you a really clear answer. The pay range for an L5 biz dev for Google Singapore, you have to utilize the other data that's out there on Singapore. If we don't have any data on this specific role, look at what engineers are making, look at what program managers are making, look at those salary ranges and determine it. Because I think there seems to be a little bit of a blocker here. Singapore is a high paying market, especially base. Base is usually pretty good in Singapore. The equity is maybe a little bit lower, but levels.fyi is the source of truth. That's going to be your best resource. I have had comp clients that are in Singapore, but I just think there's a continued search to get this answer, and I'm just a little unsure what the blocker is here. So, I mean, obviously you can come back and tell us, but at a certain point, you're just going to need to go in and anchor and go for it. I don't know what stage you're in, but there's been a real push to get this data, but the best data is going to be online. And obviously, if anybody in this community wants to provide some guidance, please do. My final round of on-site interview is scheduled this Friday, and I was told the focus area will be domain knowledge and solution design. Is this considered RRK? Probably. Yeah, I mean, we don't need to label it. The fact that we know that it's going to be very domain focused and solution design focused is great. That's actually more specific than RRK. So I would take that information and don't worry about it. Just say, okay, I know the exact areas I'm going to need to focus in on, and that'll be really helpful. So I'm glad you got that clarity, but don't worry too much about whether it's an RRK or not. It sounds like it, but that's even more specific than RRK. I received an offer at the end of last week for YouTube. Awesome. But also had a Google offer I was waiting on. I found out from Google Recruiter yesterday the Google role was put on hold. This was the role I preferred, but I'm also conscious that YouTube one is the offer I have in hand. I would take the YouTube offer, absolutely. And keep us posted, but that's good news. That's kind of weird that you had an offer from YouTube and an offer from Google. If you want to come back, Heather, and tell us more, please do. But I think it's great. Yeah, we take that offer 100%. Any roles that are being put on hold or told that it's part of the hiring slowdown, I mean, again, I'm going to go with the same recommendation all day. I think we got to take these offers and move forward. Haven't heard back from my recruiter in over 2 weeks after the final rounds. Is this normal right now? It's normal all the time, but it's because your recruiter is not organized. And not organized, doesn't have empathy, all these other things, right? They're not doing a good job. So you need to follow up with them. Just be gracious and kind, but they're not staying on top of it, clearly. I'm sorry to hear that. Follow up right now. Does ATS reject if you upload a doc instead of a PDF? And do you have to be 100% qualified for a role? I don't think so, but I can't say for sure. I don't know. I don't want anybody to be 100% qualified for any role. If you're 100% qualified, you have all the preferred qualifications, you can do everything in the responsibilities. What does that mean? You're going to be bored. I want some of the preferred qualifications, some of the responsibilities, a little bit of it to be a stretch for you. So you're excited, you continue to learn and grow, and that will make you a better employee. Just my 2 cents. So I would say go for it. Hi, Jeff in the community. I wanted to call out Google invested in a new campus in Raleigh, North Carolina, US for all GCP. I have to say they aren't moving all cloud services overseas. Okay. Thank you so much for letting us know. And Raleigh is a hot market. A lot of tech companies are moving to Raleigh. So if you're interested in that mid-Atlantic region, it could be a great region for you. Okay, so why is this showing up as 2, but we'll look at it. Also, 3 interviews need to be approved in order to be hired, or will there be a final decision and all 3 interviewers need to agree on that? Interviewers cannot see each other's feedback. That's the purpose of HC or offer review. They cannot see each other's feedback, okay? So interview is completed, interview feedback is requested to come in as quick as possible, and then the recruiter will review it and ultimately determine if it's going to move to the next step. If there's a pre-planned hiring manager, they'll discuss with them, etc. I hope that helps. Considering the slowdown on hiring, I've been in team matching phase with no matches for over a month for program manager. Would it be safe to say the ride is over? Would they come back around a year when the market picks back up? I would say to stay in touch with your recruiter. No team match might have nothing to do with the slowdown. Sometimes team matching for any position can just be slow. Ask your recruiter, what's the cadence? Should I check in with you once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month? You really want to build a relationship with them so that you stay relevant with them. I interviewed with several recruiters from other companies that is not Google. Okay. I know you mentioned to push on any compensation talks, but the recruiter went ahead and told me the ranges, regardless of my target range. What should I say if it's within or a bit below my target range? Don't say anything. When they provide you target ranges, just remember, a lot of times some of the legality in these states like California or Colorado is that if you ask, even if you don't ask, sometimes they'll provide, but if you do ask, they have to provide you the salary range, but it's just salary. So they might leave bonus behind, they might not tell you equity, they might not tell you everything. So we're not completely informed. If they say, how do you feel about that? I'm just really excited to meet the team, and I'm excited to meet the team, learn more about the role. We can discuss compensation later, okay? So just don't really react to it. Completed comp discussions for a strategy role in APAC, but just before offer insurance was told to wait 2 weeks today. Any pointers on whether strategy roles will be impacted by the slowdown? Okay, so a lot of people are getting this 2-week guidance. I can't say, I don't know, but you're in the offer stage and all we can do is sit and wait, which is just terrible for me to tell you, but patience is going to be a virtue. Okay. So just make sure at that 2-week mark that you check in with your recruiter that specific day if you haven't heard from them. Hi, Jeff. I've been approached for a recruiter from Google for the role of TSE. It's a great opportunity to get into a prestigious company like Google, and you checked into the JD, and it's different from my current job role. I'm working as a big data developer at the moment, while TSA job role, JD, supporting customers and resolving their issues. What should you suggest to mention my expectations in terms of job role? So TSE is a technical solutions engineer. It's not as technical as a dev. They've removed the coding portion of that interview. I hired TSEs in my last year at Google. That was the role I hired the most in my last year at Google. And so it's going to be less technical. So if you really want to stay hands-on tech, it's not the right role. But sometimes we'll make a little bit of a concession to get into our ideal company. But if you really like doing the hands-on stuff, the TSE role will not be appropriate. Okay. I hope that helps. Hi, Jeff. I had a series of interviews at G for an engagement manager role. Most of them went well, but one had mixed feedback. Recruiter proposed to retake the management interview. What should I expect from it? Same sort of thing, same sort of questions. If you do get the same question you got asked in the previous interview, flag that to your interviewer. Hey, I just want to let you know I was asked that in my previous interview for previous interview. What you should expect from it is that you need to be as prepared as possible, because when you're given the opportunity to redo an interview, you've got to get a hire or strong hire recommendation. Lean hire is not going to be enough. So get after it, crush it, spend as much time preparing and practicing as you can. Absolutely love your content. Recently spoke to the director of CE after my presentation round for the CE role. How would you put this into perspective? What's going on? Okay, well, if you spoke to a director, maybe it's because you're coming in as an L7. I don't know if it was a more casual conversation. I'm obviously 30 minutes plus behind. So if you want to come back and let me know, speaking to leadership is always a good sign, but I can't tell you anything else, unfortunately. Is it worthwhile to appeal level if you think you're a better candidate for L5 product manager? What is the appeal process? You were approved at L4. Okay, Adam, you just got to ask your recruiter, if I were to do 1 to 2 additional interviews, could I be considered for an L5? Just remember, L4 product managers are going to make great money. And if you feel like you're going to be at an L5, well, you might be there. If you accept it now, you might be there at the end of next year. Now, if you can do additional interviews, it's worth it. You usually put nothing at risk, so it's worth asking. But an L4 product manager is still going to make great money. Just FYI. What is the equivalent practical experience means in a product manager JD, bachelor's degree or equivalent experience? For example, paste that from a position of a senior PM. So bachelor's, 4 years. So either you have a bachelor's or 4 years of relevant product experience. Sophie, you got to just go for it. I think you're overthinking this a little bit. Just apply for the role, try and get referred in for the role. Just go for it. You clearly want this job. So I think don't overthink it. Just go for it. I'm applying to UX research. Is there a better chance applying to ad subscription services? Given that this is how Google makes money, I'm assuming they're less affected. Yeah, I think it's just really hard for us to know. I think UX research is one of the coolest roles out there. And every time I get a client in this space, I'm just blown away by the information that's shared. So I think if you're really passionate, go after your passions and don't worry too much about the slowdown because it's so out of our control. Just my 2 cents. Hey, Jeff, how is the hiring pipeline looking for TPM roles? I haven't heard any slowdown on TPMs at all. But again, we're just looking for more data and information to come in. TPMs are really hot right now. So my best guess is it won't be super slow, but I don't know for sure. Received an offer, pre-hiring slowdown memo in the negotiation phase. Does pushing back for higher comp seem like a risky move? I think it's way more risky to not fight for what we want. I think the slowdown is creating fear, and that fear is causing people to accept less money. I would push back personally. I wrapped up on-site interviews last week and have a call scheduled with a recruiter to discuss next steps. Should I enlist your salary negotiation services before that call? You should. I want to get in front of it as soon as possible. Jeff, I'm applying for a role in a sales department at Google. The responsibilities in JD matches with my experience. However, these different roles also have different product line. Okay. For sales manager role, Google Ads matches my resume. So does the manager role for Android. Am I supposed to learn deeply about both product ads and Android? Well, hopefully you can narrow it down and pick one. Should you learn a little bit about the product area? Always. Do you need to be an expert? Never. Okay. So it's just you want to be able to bring these product areas into your solutions. That's going to be the most important piece. So you want to learn a little bit, but yeah, I would say maybe pick one and that would be easier as part of your prep. How about your tech interviews for an L5 and team matching rounds, then had a comp discussion call based on multiple videos, including yours. I put my high anchor even higher and expecting to meet in the middle. Recruiter sounded like I was crazy. Now, a few days later, I'm wondering if I'd be rejected by the high numbers. Well, you're saying L5, so I'm assuming whenever we talk about levels, I'm assuming Google or big tech company. I've never seen Google reject somebody for anchoring high. Remember, your recruiter is there to do two things. They're there to be your advocate, and they're there to present reason, to say, hey, your number's super high. We're not going to be able to hit it, but I'll go back to the comp team and I will battle for you. I'll advocate for you. That's what a good recruiter would do. As long as you're gracious and kind, that offer is not going to go away. Okay? Good luck. Received an offer but need to relocate to a different city. Is this a risk given the recent memo? I don't think so. Remember, once the offer is signed, sealed, delivered, you're good to go. 2 days back, had an RRK interview for a storage specialist at a delivery center. After the interview, recruiter is not responding to my emails to chat. Is it because of the hiring slowdown? Okay. Similar experience for my friend in the same role. He attended an RRK a week back, a long silence. So this is not a long silence. So 2 days back, that means that on Monday, and now it's Wednesday. That's not a long time. So just give it a little bit of space. If you haven't heard back, then follow up next week. But even waiting a week to hear back, sometimes it just takes a while for interview feedback. Okay. Hi, Jeff. You interviewed for an account strategist role for Dublin. They said I cleared all the rounds with good feedback and some improvement areas. Okay. But they also said it's on hold. They are assessing budget and other approvals, and it will take at least 4 weeks. Have you lost the opportunity? We'll know in 4 weeks. Yeah, that's the best advice I can give. I don't know, but here's the thing. They liked you. So they said you cleared all the rounds. You've done good in the piece that you can control. The rest, you can't control. So I know it's very easy for me to say, hey, don't control anything you can't control. But the reality is that you did great in the interviews. Awesome. Now you just have to wait and then follow up in 4 weeks with your recruiter if you haven't heard back. And good luck. Keep us updated. Referral really helps at Google because it's just an easier way to get in the door. Remember, typically about 10% of all hires globally come from applications. So what that tells you is that referral is just a much, much easier path. Hi, Jeff. What would be the best time to apply for security positions in Google? I say if you see them now and they're open, go for it. Completed my interview last month on the 26th for an SDE role. HR is not responding to mails or calls. What should you do? So now that we're hitting close to the 1 month mark, this is where we need to go around our recruiter. If you complete all your interviews and you don't hear back, then you need to reach out to the sourcer, the recruiting coordinator. If you've connected with any of the interviewers on LinkedIn, you're going to start poking everybody now. Because if you followed up 2 or 3 times, it's been almost a month and we haven't heard back, we have to find another source. It doesn't mean that we don't continue to reach out to HR with graciousness and kindness, even though we don't want to take that path, because it's ridiculous that they don't get back to us and let us know what's going on, but go around them. And then with the recruiter survey, remember, you've got to bury them on these recruiter surveys. If they take a month to get back to you after the on-site, that's ridiculous. You would have heard from me 5, 6, 7 times by now because I would have had it as part of my system. That's why I did that advice for Google recruiters video a couple of weeks ago that I'm sure none of them watched. But the reality is that if they were organized at all, you would have heard from them multiple times at this point. So I'm sorry about that. Go around them, but keep reaching out to them as well. Hi, Jeff. What should I do? Okay, we're following up. If I have an unresponsive recruiter, you have a second round scheduled, but I don't know if it's RRK or GNL and who will be interviewing me. You already passed GCA with the HM. Okay, so you just got to be ready for anything. If they're not getting back in touch with you again, make them feel the pain in the survey to say they wouldn't even tell me what the focus area of my interview was. But for right now, just take ownership, get control, and just prep for both interviews, okay? I know that's not great advice, but that's what I want you to do. Hey, Jeff, how can we make sure that my resume cracks the ATS? And is it true that if you apply today and get a rejection within a week, it means it failed the ATS check? Look, just get those keywords in there. build a great bulleted summary, and that's going to be success. We're pulling the responsibilities, the key terms into our bulleted summary. Unique resume for every role you apply to. It's really easy. It's 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. That's my strong recommendation. We have a free resume template at practiceinterviews.com under the free resources section if you want to use it. Okay, so we're hitting the 1 hour mark and I'm behind. I'm about 37 minutes behind. I'm going to start picking up the pace quite a bit. And so I'm not trying to be curt. I just want to make sure we get all the questions answered. These lives continue to get longer. The audience builds. I love that. And I want to make sure I get to all the questions. If you visit practiceinterviews.com and you want to sign up for our course, if you use the code GET, G-E-T in all caps, you get $100 off that course just today until 11:59 Pacific time. We have interview coaching, negotiation coaching. Sign up for our Slack group. It's free. The free resources, they're also free. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button and subscribe if you've never subscribed. Okay, we're going to pick up the pace a little bit and start getting through it, okay? Could you help me with this GCA question? How would you identify new growth opportunities for your partners to help them grow? Have we ever worked with these partners before? What's the scope of this partnership, small, medium, or large? Are these partners going to be only external facing or internal facing as well? If I was going to work with these partners, a few areas I might consider are, what are our overall goals? What does the historical data show? I really want to understand our timeline and budget. What are some of the risks associated with not identifying new growth opportunities? And then I'd really want to look at the overall scope and scale and partner with those stakeholders. Let's make some assumptions. So you make those assumptions and solve based on the hat of the role. Okay, we always solve role specific, but again, that's very high level, very quick. I didn't work good transitions in there, but hopefully some of that guidance will get you into the flow. Haven't heard from Google apprenticeship yet. You applied the first week as soon as it opened. Is that normal? They said it's going to start in September. I don't know if they're slowing apprenticeships, but if you haven't heard back yet, they might not have picked up your application. Would speaking to the hiring manager instead of the recruiter potentially help get more clarity on the impact of the hiring slowdown on my role? Agreed comp, but got news today of slowdown and offer on hold. You could ask the recruiter to schedule a meeting with the hiring manager. I think that's absolutely fair, but go through the recruiter. Hi, Jeff. If I receive the question, should I answer it as open-ended or CFAS or behavioral stuff? If you could go back and change a decision that you made in the past, what would it be and why? That's based on previous experience. So I would use the STAR method or STARL or STARL. It's definitely a behavioral question. It's a little bit of a funky way that they're putting it together. Most would tell me about a time when, give me an example of, but this is definitely a behavioral question. Hi, Jeff. Could you please provide an anchor guidance for TSE role L4 based out of Paris? Ooh, Paris, I'm not as familiar with the Paris market. I definitely would think you'd be anchoring into the mid to high ones. Go look at what software engineers are making in Paris, and for a TSE, times that by 70%. So take the last 10 software engineers that were hired at L4, find the average, times it times 0.7. That's the comp you want to make. So probably what they're making as that average should be around your anchor. I hope that helps. Is the professional summary on your resume preferred with people with 3 years of experience? Can you please share the Slack link? Go to practiceinterviews.com. The Slack link is on the top banner and you can grab it there. Yeah, I recommend a summary for somebody with 3 years of experience. While interviewing at Google, should I explain the analogy terms to them? As I come from finance industry that would have compliance and financial terms, should I explain these terms before? Sometimes. So if you're in a behavioral answer and you say, we focused in on X, what X is for finance, and just remember, say, I'm not sure how much of a financial background you have, but this is what we were focused in on. Short and sweet. Don't go into a long explanation of it, but sometimes, yeah, it could be helpful. I'm in the initial stage of my interview and the recruiter asked for my current salary. What is your view on this? How can we politely reject? Okay, so Yeah, employers are allowed to ask this question in my country. And I think I saw a quick YouTube comment from you this morning that said you're in the early stages. If they ask, say, look, I'm happy to talk about compensation later in the process, but for now, I really just want to go through the process, see if the team is a match, see if the position is a match, and then we can discuss comp at the end. I'm sure if it's the right fit, we can get aligned on compensation, something like that. Okay, I hope that helps. TPM role, recruiter confirmed that you've made it through the on-site virtual and now moving to the team match. It's been 3 weeks now. I'm shocked they're slow hiring practices. The recruiter doesn't even bother replying to me. Yeah, I mean, it's not Google, right? It's the individual, and I don't you didn't actually say Google, said just TPM role. That's a recruiter. That's not the organization. So they're not good at responding. Just continue to check in, and then it's been 3 weeks now. So, at that 3 to 4 week stage, we can start going around them. We can talk to the coordinator, the sourcer, etc. Go around them. If they can't get back to you in 3 weeks, something's wrong with them. Okay. So it's really on them. Don't look at it as an overall reflection of the organization. What does your one-on-one call cover on the call? We do role specific and then any other focus areas. Do you want to focus in on, for Google, for example, GCA, GNL, RRK, all of the above? It's a practice interview. Sometimes my clients just want to brainstorm for an hour. That's fine too. I will keep us on track and say, hey, the brainstorming is not helping. Let's get into some questions. And that's usually what I push to, but it's definitely role specific and it's really based on your needs. This is not related to Fang. A friend of mine is looking for jobs after taking 4 years off due to a forced relocation due to her husband's job and having kids. Any tips on how to handle this? They should really talk about what they've worked on and what they've learned since they left. Like, how have they educated themselves? What courses have they taken? And really show positivity. I'm really excited about this move that I made, and I've been really happy raising my children, and now it's time for me to step back into it. So as long as the tone is positive, it's fine. And this is totally acceptable. People should be able to take time off, including years off, to focus in on their family. So as long as they treat it positively, it will go great. Hi, Jeff, currently based out of India, and you've applied for one role in London where you feel your profile fits perfectly. Just want to know if my location will impact your selection procedure. It's always possible, right? And that's only to say that it's easier to hire somebody locally, typically, than somebody who's not in that country. That's all. So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. Just know that it could potentially be the harder path. I requested my on-site to be scheduled 5 weeks after the technical screen, and the recruiter let me know that I should wait a couple of weeks as it was too early to schedule. However, it's been 4 weeks and I haven't heard back. Should I follow up with him on my updated availability? That's exactly what you're going to do, Emma. You're going to go ahead and you're going to say, hey, I'm ready. Here's my updated availability for the next 2 or 3 weeks, just to prompt that follow-up. So do that today. What would be your advice for customer onboarding strategist role? Well, you just really want to make sure that you are thinking about all of their needs and how you're going to make it a great experience, collaborating and utilizing past methodologies to make sure that that experience is great, and then always constantly evolving the process and strategy behind onboarding. Those would be some of my recommendations. Hi, Jeff. Is it frequent to have leadership separated from googliness? If you're going for a more leadership-driven role, yes, it is. I wrapped up my virtual on-sites a month ago, and the recruiter says the team is in the process of selecting the finalist. Is there another way to refer to the HC? Love your content. No, that just means that you're one of a few, and they're just waiting for the other interviews to get figured out before they pick the finalist. But this is not, it's not HC, not yet. My wife wants to apply for a student research program at Google. How do we apply, and what are the benefits? Well, you can apply on student research program. I'm not very familiar with that program. So if you can apply online, I actually don't know. But the benefits of working on a research program, especially at a company company like Google, I imagine there's massive benefits, but I'm not very familiar with that program. How do I stand out on LinkedIn so that Google recruiters reach out to me? Keywords. So a lot of people disagree with this, but you are going to dump your resume bullets into your LinkedIn profile. How do the vast majority of recruiters search on LinkedIn? It's a keyword search. They're using LinkedIn Recruiter, LinkedIn's advanced tool, because the organization gives it to them. They pay for it. They're doing keyword searches. The more keywords you have in your LinkedIn profile, the better. You need to have a smiling profile picture, shoulders up, smiling, and then embed it with great activity. Show that you're pretty active on the platform. But the biggest thing are smiling picture, shoulders and above, and just make sure you have all that experience throughout, because that's going to be huge. And obviously your education as well. When will new grad SWE roles open for students graduating in December of 2022? I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure you could probably find that information online. Usually they'll have something like new grad SWE roles would open up early next year in January, I think, but I would check online. I completed 3 RRK, 1 GCA, and 1 GNL in the last 4 months. What should be the next step? If it's positive, either HC or offer review would be the likely next step. My recruiter said they accidentally gave me the same interview twice and want me to take the code comprehension interview I missed. Any advice for tackling this interview technical writing role? Technical writers, it's really, really tough to have the balance of tech and be a good writer. It's not a common skill set. All I would say is do your research, make sure that you're getting enough time to prep and practice. But yeah, it's tough, but it sounds like you're on the right track. I know that's not super helpful. How high should one anchor for an associate corporate counsel attorney role in DC? I actually have helped in this market for these types of roles, but you'd have to tell me the level. Without the level, it's kind of hard. DC also is, cost of living is high, but cost of labor is low because of all the government jobs. So, associate corporate counsel, I would probably be anchoring into the 400s, but I'd want to know more about level. Does Google hire minorities like Latin people and Indians irrespective of their countries if they fit the role? Well, countries are important because there's restrictions based on sponsorship. There's limited sponsorship. I always recommend getting hired in your current country or like across the EU if you can move across countries pretty easily. Or if you're in the US and you're in Canada and you want to apply for a US role, like where it's easier to move around. That's my recommendation. Just getting in the door is a good start, and then you can always transfer once you're in the door. I think we already answered this one, AJ. It's role specific, and then anything you want to focus in on. Do you have any advice on how to get interviews in the US while living in Poland? Official applications don't work for me. Again, same thing. It's hard. I just want to be really candid. Like, it's not that easy to just be in Poland and get a job in the US. There's limited sponsorship. So as much as you can push to work in your home country or a country where it's easier, and then ultimately transfer the US. And I think a lot of people know I interviewed for multiple roles in London. It ultimately didn't work out, but the only reason why I was going to be able to go to London was because I was already with the organization. The Google recruiter mentioned that most of the interviewer feedback was positive except one, which was not strong. I have a feeling it was the coding one, but that's all I got from her. I'm interviewing for an L4 SWE. What does that mean in terms of hire, no hire? What are the chances of getting a hire from HC with the current hiring slowdown? Also, which part of the process will I find out the results of the interview, if at all? You won't find out the results. 90+% of the time, you're never going to know how you did in those interviews, nor should you. Recruiters who give that feedback should not be telling you which interviews yielded what. If you're going after a SWE role and the coding wasn't as strong, that decreases the likelihood of getting hired, right? It's a critical facet of the role, but keep us posted, Brian, on what happens. Hi, Jeff. You're having 3 interviews for a CE role next week. The interview coordinator told me it will be a one-on-one interview each. Is it normal? Is it supposed to be a committee? Nope. All interviews are conducted one-on-one for the most part. Thanks for your video. What should EM, L4, L5, L6 anchor total comp in Poland? So it's 3 levels. So if you've watched my lives before, I don't like providing anchors for multiple levels or talking about total comp. It's much easier to focus in on one. The video I did, what are software engineers earning in Warsaw, and for an engagement manager, 0.7. That's going to be your total comp. So you should be anchoring around what they make. In that video I did, I actually used Warsaw as my location. So really use that at levels.fyi. Okay. Could you recap the data points you have around how long people will need to wait, 2 weeks, etc., for those looking for teams in the team match stage? There is no set criteria. There is literally no set criteria. Some people wait up to a year. Some people are done within a week. The team match is a complete unknown. We don't know your interview feedback. We don't know the role. It's just so many unknowns. So I can't give you any time, and really nobody can. Okay, unfortunately. Submitted your resume to Google Career and it's been a month, but you haven't heard from Google. Does it mean you're not shortlisted? Probably, yeah. If you haven't heard back in a month, they've probably moved on with other candidates. My recruiter was very supportive and ensured my interview process was smooth. We're in touch even after my offer is generated and about to join Google in 2 weeks. Really appreciate the support. Amazing. Not all of these recruiters are bad. Like, we get a lot of good recruiters. We don't hear about the good recruiters because you don't hear about the good stuff, you hear about the bad stuff, right? So Raul, I'm really glad that you had a great experience, and congrats. Go in there and crush it. Thanks, Jeff. Love the channel. I would tip if monetized. I appreciate the help getting the interview stage at Google as a challenge. I would tip. I'm not really sure. But I will, if I can get at what you're asking. A lot of people ask me, I get hit up on like YouTube and especially LinkedIn, and people want to like tip me for my services. If you want to pay for my services, you can. The only other tip you can give me, if you're part of the community, is just socialize the content. If you like the content, just tell other people about it. That's all. I think that's what you were saying. So thank you so much. So L5, L6 anchor for Austin, Texas. I know you were in here before, but I don't remember the role. So you'll have to come back and tell us the role. And I know we're incredibly far behind. Any insights into the hiring slowdown impacting core bench? Should we assume that non-revenue related teams will suffer the most impact? I would assume that. Yeah, I would assume that. I can't say for sure, but if I'm an organization, I'm going to focus in on the things that drive revenue and streamline the items that don't. And I can tell you, like my personal story is that's what I did for my business early this year. I streamlined my business incredibly from last year to this year to be much more revenue focused. So I would imagine that that's going to be their approach. I interviewed at Google for an account strategist and had your GCA and RRK interviews. Got positive feedback for both, but before moving to the GNL round, the position was filled. Okay. Recruiter strongly encouraged me to apply for the position again in 4 to 6 months when she expects it to open, and apply for other relevant positions that are open right now on other teams. I see account manager roles, which might be similar to the strategist role. If I apply, will the recruiter for the AM position be able to see past feedback? And will my past feedback have an impact on the screening process? Great questions. Yes, it will. And that's great for you because that feedback was positive. So yes, they will be able to see it, and that should benefit you. And yes, I would not pause on going after an AM role. Jeff, if I choose to work at Meta as a contractor over a full-time offer, I took a lower level job and just learned it was around an L3. It's a good opportunity, but now my contract is complete. And now looking for jobs again due to no headcount for continued contract. I don't want to get lowballed in my next role. You've started the interview process at Google, and attempting FTE at Meta. Any suggestions on how to get my compensation back up and not get lowballed? You have 10 years of experience in the marketing field. Yeah, you've got to anchor high and you've got to stick to your numbers in a really nice and gracious and kind way. But just stick to those numbers. I'm super open to people taking contract roles. If it makes sense for you and your family, that's what I did. I took a contract role because I took the risk because I knew I was going to crush it. I really believed in myself. And so, but you got to set the anchor high, and especially with these big companies, you can push even on the contract side. I did my RRK round for a GCP role. When can you expect the results? If you have not heard back in 5 business days, follow up with your recruiter. Can you speak on the slowdown of hiring? They're slowing down hiring. I know as much as anybody else in this community knows, and as we get data and it keeps coming in, we'll keep sharing it with each other. That's all I can tell you. As you've mentioned, engineering will most likely be prioritized during the hiring slowdown. Does engineering refer to SWE exclusively, or customer engineer considered eng even though it's sales work? Well, customer engineers are mostly GCP focused, which is revenue generating, but I can't say for sure. Yeah, I would think SWEs to start, and then CEs shouldn't be backing off of those, but I don't know for sure. Hi, Jeff. There's no HC for a specific position and team match is completed, how is the G decision made for hire? It goes to something called offer review. Offer review is designated essentially for candidates that are clear-cut hires and they don't need to waste their time at HC, and they're just dotting the I's and crossing the T's to make sure that everything looks right before they bring you to the compensation stage. My recruiter said we will go to the final review once there is a team aligned after getting the interview feedback reviewed. Is final review HC or offer review? So HC and offer review function pretty similar, but you have to ask them that question. I don't know. They may be skipping HC in this case. Offer review tends to be pretty much just a checks and balances, but just ask them, double check with them. Hi, Jeff. To help preparing for technical interviews also, not coding. I don't like to do system design for engineers only because there will be technical items that I'll miss. I can do solution design or like even we had somebody comment earlier, architectural design, I can do that. But hands-on tech, no, because I don't have a background in engineering. But I can help on the behavioral side. Obviously, I get a ton of eng managers, eng directors, and software engineers for the more soft skills types of questions. Hi, Jeff. Thanks for your videos. They were helpful. Given you're on site 3 weeks ago, does the hiring slowdown affect your chances now? Maybe, but if you haven't heard back in 3 weeks, definitely follow up with your recruiter. Thank you. You are welcome. I've had all interviews, received an email from my recruiter today, said they're reprioritizing hiring, been advised the line manager remains interested in me, role is for a TAM. Really worried due to the slowdown won't be successful, going to be a painful few weeks. We're all going to be in a little bit of pain over this, right? And I can see it. I can see it happening. So just stay positive and stay in touch with your recruiter as much as you can, or whatever you've decided on that cadence. Also noticed your recruiter's communication has slowed down. Your file is submitted for HC review. You're a little worried. Okay, just stay in touch with them. Okay, stay on top of it as much as you can. Hi, Jeff, I'm nervous. I have the first pitch meeting with Google on July 28th. Do you have any suggestions? What should I pay attention to the most? If you have a pitch, I'm not sure what you mean by pitch meeting, but if you mean now a recruiter screen, you shouldn't be nervous. That should be pretty casual. If it's a pitch meeting like a presentation, you got to make sure your deck is super clean, more visuals than words, and you need to practice that presentation at least 5 times. I'm just giving you all that advice because I'm so far behind that I want to make sure I'm getting to it. Thanks for sharing these videos. I was slated for a PGM on-site ladder. Recruiter said HM is interested in meeting me. Is this common? Had the call 7 days ago. Yeah, just follow up. Just say, hey, checking in, still really excited about the role. Recruiter said I'm slated for an L4 initial interview with TPM. Where should I anchor for a role? What should be the anchor for an account? Oh, sorry. Recruiter TPM. So yeah, again, I can't give you an anchor without the location. If you do want an anchor, role, level, and location are going to be the 3 critical data points, because those are the data points that the comp team looks at. An interview for an L6, generic interview, no particular team. I know I did great on 3 of the 5, the other 2 not sure. How does this impact my chances? So I'm not sure. I think this is Google, but I mean, remember, the competition is fierce. You've got to really crush most of the interviews. I don't know because I don't have the feedback. So you've put in the hard work. Now you just need to sit back and stay in touch with your recruiter. Good luck. AM, LCS, Toronto. AM, Toronto. I would think that the anchor, you'd be wanting to anchor into the low 3s, maybe up into the mid 3s, something like that. But definitely check online. I get a lot of Toronto, like Toronto and Waterloo questions, but I'm a little less familiar in those markets. But that's what I would recommend. Have you heard about the memo sent to Google recruiters yesterday stating Google is not allowed to make any offers to candidates at this time? I've heard about it for some groups, but I have other clients that are actively negotiating and they are getting updates. So I don't really know, but thanks so much, Mark, for this data point. It's good for us to know. We interviewed for a GCS account strategy. All 4 stages of the interviews went well, and my recruiter just didn't give me any feedback and even one message, a yes or no. Is this normal? Nope, it's not normal. So I would continue to follow up if you haven't. And if it's been a really long time, go around them. And then remember, make them feel the pain in that survey. Let's see. Because after other interviews, he used to give me great positive feedback, but all of a sudden, after the GCA, yeah, definitely follow up, Leah, and see what's going on and let us know. But be gracious and kind. If it's been a really long time, you can go around them. Hey, Jeff, during the on-site interviewer gave a question, I figured out it was actually very simple. He quickly changed it to a harder question, and I was unable to come up with a solution. Did I fail? It's hard for me to say because you weren't there, but that's interesting. My best guess is that it was a technical question. So I don't know. Good luck. Yeah, that's all I can say, unfortunately. I had my on-site interviews and no responses, and it's been 3 weeks now. When I follow up, she keeps saying, I'll let you know next week. It's been happening for 3 to 4 weeks. The next message, we're going to change our tone. We're going to say, hey, I'm checking in again, and I know you continue to say next week. Unfortunately, I'm not internal to the organization, and I don't really know what that means. Is it because of delayed interview feedback? Is it because of the hiring slowdown? Is it because you're interviewing other candidates? Are you able to put some more clarity around this for me? I really want you to put yourself in my shoes. This is a really exciting opportunity for me, but it's making me a little anxious that I'm not able to obtain any data, and I really would appreciate any feedback. I know that's a lot, but something like that. Hi, Jeff. Hey, Keith. Recruiter informed me you're interviewing for an L4 TPM security focus. You have 15 years of experience as a program manager. What is the best way to discuss L5 as the interview level? Well, you go in and crush those interviews and you will be explored for a 5. 4 is definitely too low, and I would have never put you in front of that role, but now it's on you. You got to go in and crush it. If you do crush it, 5 will be on the table, okay? Hello, Jeff. You passed the on-site and anticipated timeline. Passing your on-site and anticipated timeline wasn't within 60 days of H-1B grace period. Hence, decided with another offer. Will this impact me if I interview with Google again? No, they're going to want to probably come back to you. Stuff happens, right? So I think you will have future opportunities. Google had a role open for almost a year now. Is that a red flag? You applied for it 3 times. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would stop applying, but thoughts of privacy and tech and the future of privacy. Privacy is huge. I think it's a really, really interesting area that's going to continue to evolve and grow. So I think it sounds fun. It is maybe a little bit of a flag that they haven't been able to find anybody, but Yeah, at a certain point, you're going to want to stop. Maybe after a few times, it is time to stop, but you could continue trying as well. Recruiter in G says the current position is filled, but she can use my current interview feedback for a similar role in next 1 year. Is this something that happens regularly? It happens sometimes. Interview feedback typically stays active for about a year, and then after a year, you'll have to redo everything. But if you had a good GCA, good GNL, those interviews or types of interviews can be repurposed. So it's not super common, but common enough. My interview was for Dublin and phone screening. RRK and googliness went so well, but after GCA, I never heard anything. Okay. It's been 2 months. Okay. Do you have a coordinator, sourcer, any interviewer information? If you haven't heard back in 2 months, that's crazy. Also, everybody, watch your junk mail for that survey. Sometimes that Google survey comes in your junk mail, but also what's likely happening is that you haven't gotten a survey because it only comes when your profile is shut down. 2 months is totally unacceptable. And when your profile is shut or closed, you need to make that recruiter feel the pain. 2 months is unbelievable. And it's just crazy that person should lose their job. That's what I think. Jeff, your videos have been super helpful for me. You recently interviewed at Google for a program manager role. The recruiter called me 1 week back and told me the feedback was positive. However, the position I applied for was closed. She said she'd scheduled team fit interviews. Should I expect to hear back from her? Yes, and you should check the cadence. How often should I be checking in with you? Once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month. Get that cadence with her, okay? I'm going to pause for a second. We're still really far behind. My schedule sets up that I can go a little bit longer today than normal. I usually have about a 2-hour hard stop. I'll continue to get through as many questions as I can. Just want to quickly prompt, if you get the interview course today and you type in the code GET in all caps, you get $100 off the interview mastery course till 11:59 Pacific time today at practiceinterviews.com. We have interview coaching, negotiation coaching. You can sign up for our free Slack group. We have free resources. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button and subscribe if you've never subscribed. How many interviews are there in total? They follow a certain order: RRK, GCA, googliness, and leadership. Interviews are very role specific. It can be as few as 3 up to 6 or 7, depending on the role. And they typically don't follow a certain order, although some roles try to. How is the pipeline looking for partner roles? Quite honestly, AJ, I have no idea. I can't tell you. Hey, Jeff, I'm a new grad who got through the interviews, been in team matching for TPM for almost 5 months and no HR calls. Wow. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. This sometimes happens. The fact that they're keeping you in the team matching phase and not closing out your application means that it's good. You just got to keep at it, keep in touch with your recruiter. Unfortunately, there's really nothing else you can do. Just try and stay positive. If they haven't closed out your application at this point, it means that they see something positive. They just haven't been able to find the right team. I know that's not great feedback. Currently in the final round of interviews for a role in growth marketing. The recruiter hasn't told me anything about the slowdown. Should you be concerned? No, but if you feel like you want to reach out and ask, I would ask. Hey, Jeff, you're absolutely right about the cloud. When the pandemic first hit, cloud revenue in general dramatically increased. It's not showing any signs of slowdown. Yeah, I agree. So I'm not really sure why they're putting a hold on things other than they're just trying to get reorganized on their priorities. But I think cloud will push pretty heavily for the rest of the year. I don't think that the bar is changing because of the hiring slowdown. What I do think is that you may see a little bit more competition, which could raise the bar. That's all. Got an L5 offer from Google that you rejected a while ago. Last week, I tried it for L6. They told me that I passed, but for L5. Did they only check me for L6 this time, or did you pass again from scratch? I don't have enough data to answer on that. My recommendation is if you keep going back to Google, just go in as a 5 and crush it. I know that's very easy for me to say, but the reality is that Sometimes we delay because we want this next level, when if we had just taken the initial offer, we'd already be at the next level. So again, I know that's not great advice. I can't say exactly what happened in this case because I don't have all the data. Is it possible to get a 200K base comp for L4 PM? The band is so wide on levels. I saw as 254 and you're based in Chicago. L4 Adam, I don't know, like product management. No, you're not going to get a 200K base. But the total package, if it's PM product, I can't remember if it's program. PM is product manager, PGM is program manager. That's just how they look at it internally. But a 200K base is unlikely. They're a total comp company. They don't look at base, they look at total comp. Continuing from my last text, I spoke with the director of CE over a casual, informal chat arranged by my recruiter. I'm in the loop for Inframod CEL4. How does this sound to you? Sounds great. If the director is willing to spend time with an L4, they like you, for sure. Good luck. Does the team matching depend on level? Would L4 team matching be faster compared to L3? After L3 team match, can a HM recommend a candidate for L4? It's not specific to level. There would have to be something pretty overwhelming for them to recommend up level. I'm not saying it never happens, maybe occasionally, but it's uncommon. After 2 months interview last Friday, recruiter just informed me that I passed all the interviews. He will start team matching. Now with the slowdown, is there anything or actions I should take to expedite? No, other than staying in touch with your recruiter as much as possible. Hey Jeff, interview coming up, DS tips. I think that that's data scientist. I love a deep dive into the data, how you uncover data, how you get into the analysis. But then I love collaboration for these kinds of roles as well. How do you collaborate with others to find the best data? I think that's the role. I'm not 100% positive. My recruiter just emailed me titled Update on Your Candidacy with Google. We don't expect to have further updates for just another week or two. Okay. All right. Thanks for that, Bradley. Okay. We're going to see probably a 1 to 2 week slowdown. That's what it looks like, at least. Hey, Jeff, I only have 2 rounds scheduled without any mention of the type of interview. Your content is great. Okay. Awesome. Good luck. Now, it's okay for you to ask what's the focus area of these interviews. And if they say, I can't tell you, say, I find that, okay, I guess I get it, but I'm a little confused because all my friends are hearing what the focus areas are. They should tell you the focus areas. Gave your RRK round for an AI ML consultant on the 19th of July at Google. How much time should you wait to get an update? The interview is pretty good. If you haven't heard back in 5 business days, follow up, okay? Currently in the on-site stage for L3 SWE Google India and due to borderline feedback for L4 phone screen. Last time I gave the interviews just too much back for Zurich SWE L4. It didn't work out and the recruiter said that my on-site scores were good, but not good enough for me to pick by hiring managers because there were candidates that were better than me. She was also very confident that I would crack it the next time in the next 6 months. 2 months is quick time, but I was reached out. The current recruiter said she'd put my profile for L3 and if I asked if I could be considered for L4 for my interviews as well. Can I push for L4 on site if interviews go well? I was close to clearing it the last time. Yeah, you can always talk to them about it. Absolutely. Just make sure you're pushing back on them, okay? Any advice for a law enforcement professional trying to get into a security role at Google? Yeah, I mean, it would really depend on your background, right? The security roles at Google are going to be technical. So obviously, if you've done that coursework, you have the education in that technical security space, absolutely. But almost every single role is going to have some technical security lens. So if you do have that experience, great. If you don't, obviously there's ways to educate yourself online. I hope that helps. I just joined. Do you have any information if they're slowing down hiring for interns as well? I do not know if they're slowing that down. My best guess is that they probably would a little bit, but I can't say for sure. Hi, Jeff. I follow and like your content. Got interviewed today. Okay, amazing. For your googliness is scheduled tomorrow. Will Slowdown affect your candidacy? I can't say for sure. All you can do is push forward with those interviews and crush them. Good luck. Just making sure I haven't missed anything here. Okay, I don't think I did. Okay. Hey, Jeff, I've passed HC for a month now and no GMatch coordinator has reached out. Why are they interviewing people if they're not hiring that many? I think that they are. The team match phase is obviously tough, but if you haven't been in touch with your point of contact, your recruiter, I would reach out today. Hi, Jeff. For the security position of a master's student, will be based on data structure only or some security questions? Do you help in tech interviews also? Well, I can definitely help on like security, just more general security questions, behavioral questions, open-ended questions, structuring your information. I can help with all that. But you really always have to be asking your recruiter how much information they can share on the types of questions. They will be your source of truth. Okay. You have no experience. What's the best way to start in finance and tech? You got to start somewhere. So maybe you don't start in a big tech company. Maybe you do, but you have to get experience somewhere. That's the best way to learn. You can learn by online and getting advanced degrees, etc. But you just got to start somewhere. And the best way to start is to make sure, I want you to really, really make sure that you're doing that interview prep and practice. That's going to be critical. Okay, I hope I answered this before. Security manager role. I need to know a little bit more data on what type of security manager role we're talking about. I had my on-site 1 week ago, haven't heard from them. Should I send an email to my recruiter asking for an update? Yep, send that today, send that now. If you recently finished on-site, what does it mean with the hiring pause and slowdown? Is HC on pause? No, just specific roles are going to be paused. It sounds like they're doing some assessments now, but that's all we know. When is the right time to apply for new grad roles with a target start date of May 2023? I think that would be either happening late this year or sometime early into next year. I think more likely new grads go through that process sometime in the late winter, early spring. That's what I believe. I never hired new grads, so I can't say for sure, but I think that's the timeline. Hi, Jeff. You're currently in the process, went through 3 interviews. 2 went well. Googliness is pending. Will Slowdown affect your candidature? Any tips for googliness round? Yeah, googliness and leadership though. Both sides of the coin. Positive, right? Like great mentorship, inclusivity, etc. Negative, conflict, unethical. Be ready for both sides of the coin. Talk positively about both. And then remember, googliness and leadership will not just be behavioral. You're going to get put in some scenarios. So solve wearing the hat of the role, but just keep that positive mindset. Those are some of my biggest pieces of advice. L6 TPM NYC. Well, I've seen some crazy things happening here, but I think I also have some outlier cases. If I was an L6 TPM in New York, I'd be anchoring into the high 5s. Okay, I hope that helps. Your videos have been super helpful. Recently interviewed with Google for a PGM role. Recruiter called me 1 week back and told me the feedback was positive. However, the position I applied for was closed. She said she'd schedule team fit. I think we answered this one already. I don't know when you'll hear back, but make sure you're touching base once a week or check the cadence. How often can I touch base with you? It's going to be critical. You have your BI analyst on site coming up. Please share any pointers. Well, with business intelligence, you're going to have to be really good at analysis, strategy, and process, but you're also going to need to be really good on collaboration. And in the free resources section on practice interviews, there's question banks if you want to go in there. But it's going to really touch on everything. So just be ready for anything. Is it wise to informally network with managers at Google whom you already know when team matching? Will my recruiter feel like I'm doing their job? I don't trust them. L3, L4, UXR, former intern. I think it's okay. If you get your hand slapped by the recruiter a little bit, that's all right. But I think I think that's fine. Just tread lightly. Be careful. Okay. High anchor for L3, L4, UXR. So user experience research and NYC and SF. So those are the same paying markets. L3. I'd probably anchor, maybe like 278.5, 282.2, and then L4, I'd definitely be anchoring into the threes. Jeff, one of my previous partners now working at Google London at a lead position for a year, and she would be giving my reference for the same team in London location. However, I'm from India. How would you go about that? I would just say, let them do it for you and see what happens. I can't say how hard the sponsorship is in the UK versus the US, but yeah, just let them do it. See what happens. Absolutely. Just go for it. Hi, Jeff. Any advice regarding presentation interview for CE? Having mine soon and would like a one-on-one practice dedicated to that help. Well, yeah, it absolutely helps. I do a lot of presentation, CE presentations with clients just because I work with a lot of CEs. So the biggest pieces of advice I have, and especially if you're going to practice with me or anybody else, get that deck clean first. Practice it a couple times on your own. The deck clean means less words, more visuals, and think about casting a wide net, talking to somebody technical and non-technical, and then hire me or practice with other people. I recommend practicing it with at least 5 different people because you're going to get different kinds of feedback from everybody. I hope that helps. In the code review round, it was a mess from interviewer. I was really surprised that the interviewer at Google were substandard. He just interacted on code level. Okay, well, you can always give feedback to your recruiter to say, hey, I had some challenges in the interview, and provide that feedback. If it was really bad, you might get another opportunity. Can I change my team preference after getting an offer? You cannot, and I strongly recommend not doing that. You might give up the total opportunity. It really doesn't look good. I don't know why you would go about doing that, but it's not recommended. Strongly not recommended, okay? Okay, so I absolutely cannot answer salary levels for a TSE. I don't know the location. I don't know the location, and I would want to pick one specific level for a TSE, okay? If you want to come back and ask. Do they ever skip interviews if you had a round and were called back? Typically, they would if like you had a recent data point or data points. Like let's say 3 to 6 months ago, you crushed the GCA and GNL. Yeah, they might call you back and say, hey, we just want to do an RRK, for example. So yes, if that's the question. I think that's the question. Does this hiring slowdown impact candidates in process? It impacts everybody. Yeah, I think everybody's going to be impacted. Do you feel like recruiters will feel annoyed if I follow up every week for the results of an interview? No, if you're following up once a week to find out the results of the interview, they're not doing their job. Just be gracious and kind. What would be entry level of a master's student? L3. Cloud engineer level, L4, London, UK, what should you anchor? CE, L4, London, UK, what should you anchor? I would anchor in the low 2s. These roles are paying pretty well, low 2s, okay. What is the entry level for master's student and security student? It's based on data structure, or will there be security questions? Yeah, you should get security questions and with a master's L3. Heard back from a recruiter last Friday, said they are moving forward with my resume to hiring manager. Should I expect any updates? Yeah, I would hope so. If you don't hear back in a timely manner, follow up, okay? I recently finished my interviews and HR said Google is reprioritizing hiring needs for the rest of the year. Will that reduce my chances of getting selected compared to normal scenario, assuming same performance in interviews during 2 time periods? Yes. You probably want a little bit more data of why you're getting that generic message after finishing your interviews, and trying to get a little bit more clarity than some generic message, which is kind of BS. Like, that's not okay. Like, they should be reaching out to you with more specificity. So I would just follow up and try and get a little more data. I just found you and you're getting recommended for upcoming interviews. Which videos on your YouTube channel? There's so many. I think I'm approaching 300. So, I would maybe look at some of my most popular videos. I definitely would focus in on some of the behavioral videos and some of the open-ended videos. And remember, one of the biggest things, it's tough for me, right? But I've really learned and grown a lot in the time that I started that YouTube channel, which is approaching 4 years. So the newer content will be better. It just gets better and better over time. Remember, I do this every week. I talk to this huge community every week. I talk with tons of clients. So I get better every week. So the newer content continues to be better. And that's why I hope the newer content gets more views, because I've gotten better over time. I hope that helps. Hi, Jeff. Interviewed for a separate team and HM was involved in the interview. Now also exploring other location. How does it affect my offer given the new non-HC for offer? It shouldn't affect it at all, okay? Location will be the biggest driver, not the end of the process. Your location, because they pay for cost of labor in a market, will have the biggest impact. Okay. I don't remember. Okay, so let's go back to this. Okay, so I don't know what ABT stands for, but this would be an L3. Sounds like. I got interviewed to the last round, but my candidacy has been put on hold for a long time now. Do I stand a chance? Well, I think everybody stands a chance. But I just don't know exactly all the details. So as long as you can follow up with your recruiter, it's great. If you can't, just recommend to keep trying. 2 weeks later, after the second interview, the recruiter answered my follow-up emails and said she tried to phone me, but I missed the call. She asked me to another phone call with me, positive or negative. So funny. We had this conversation on Slack, and so many people were saying the recruiter set up a 5-minute phone call with me to give me positive feedback. So we don't know. So it really, their style, but if their communication style was positive, I would say, hey, I want to hop on the call and give you good news, or I would just call you, right? So we don't know what to expect. So good luck. Let us know how it goes. Can't tell you expected salary for a US for a master's student because the markets vary greatly. And master's isn't really going to pay you more. I think that used to be the case, but I don't think that's the case anymore. And yeah, positive or negative. Okay, cool. Hi. Jeff, 22 pass out BE student. How can I get an opportunity, Jeff? I'm from a good college, but I feel incapable to work at Google, and even you have a dream of working there. Well, that's where it starts. You got to believe in yourself. Nobody's going to get hired anywhere if you don't believe. So believe. Look at me. I got hired there. I did go to a pretty good school. It's not a well-known school, but it's a pretty good school. But that doesn't even matter. The point is that if we have self-belief and we combine that self-belief with lots of prep and practice, that's ultimately what's going to get us there. That's what's going to be the most important. So I would say start by believing, and everything else will be the funnel or fuel from there. Wondering if the hiring slowdown will impact how HC reviews maybe get harder to approve, will it impact compensation? How do we know we're actually rejected You should hear back, okay? And I don't think that this will make HC harder or change comp. I don't believe that, but I don't know. Thanks for your content at the HC stage for over 2 weeks now. Positive feedback. You should touch base with your recruiter. HC phase for 2 weeks is a long time. Recruiter roles. Typically, recruiter roles are L3 to L5 for individual contributors. You can be a L6 IC, but typically most common 95 to 96.7%, especially coming externally, will be 3 through 5. Got approved by HC in mid-June, but started the whole process for L3 back in January. You've met with 3 teams, but haven't heard back yet. Is this because of the slowdown? Are there any tips I can do during the team match other than answering the questions? So I definitely want you to follow up, figure out with your recruiter what's going on. In the team match, I stand during these sessions. It's to give me more energy, more presence, more excitement. So you got to stand, answer their questions, have a great answer for tell me about yourself, 1 minute or less. And then you got to end with great questions. Ask about them. Everybody's so fixated and focused on themselves, they forget to ask about them, and people want to talk about themselves. So remember that piece as well. This is going to be a global impact, so I imagine Brazil will be impacted as well. Okay, I think we just answered that one. Got an email from my recruiter to fill out candidate information form after my last interviews at YouTube. Does this mean I'm going to HC? Typically, yes, that's what it means. Let's see, there's a second part here. I've seen your video on HC, but what is the probability of actually getting the offer? There's no team match. This is a specific role. Well, that helps, but I can't tell you the percentage of passing HC. 1/3, yes. 1/3, no. 1/3 holds another interview. I'm casting a very wide net, but that's what's pretty typical. So there's still a good chance, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Good luck. You've done the hard work. Applied for Google L4 SWE. It's been 3 weeks now and no reply from the recruiter even after following up every week. What are my next steps? Well, you applied for the role. I'm a little confused. You applied or you had a conversation with them? If they haven't followed up, they've probably moved on, but tell us more. Interviewed for a separate team and HM was involved in the interview, also exploring other location. How does it affect my offer given the new non-HC for offer? As long as everything is positive, we can't worry about that. We can only control what we can control. Great conversations, great interviews, and being gracious and kind throughout. Those are the only things we can control. Recently got phone screening and role interview with the manager for scheduled, was later intimidated the role got closed and offered another role, which I didn't take. Will they consider you again? Yes, you will be considered again if you do not take a role. They don't like losing people. So if you didn't take it this time, you will have future chances. You have a phone coding interview for a test engineer next week. Rusty at coding. This is where I want you to utilize some of the really good online platforms like Pramp or LeetCode or whatever you think, and try and get more into that testing coding mindset and practice online with other people. That's my strongest recommendation. Your recruiter told me there's no updates because the team is still deciding whether to move forward with me. It's been a month since my final onsite. Is it unlikely that I receive an offer at this case? We don't know. I think I want more clarity from your recruiter. Is it because there's multiple other candidates that are still in the interview process? Like, what's going on? Like, you just want to get a little bit more data from the recruiter. Ideally, just ask them for more. See if they'll give it to you. Just had a call with my other recruiter to negotiate my offer numbers. We're going to chat again Friday. If she can get me those asked to me, but if she's able to, I'm most likely going to accept. I don't want this to linger much longer, especially with the uncertainty with Google, even if I don't end up there. Appreciate all your videos. Okay, awesome. I mean, just the biggest thing with negotiation is slow and steady wins the race. The more space and time and pushback, and if we can find this nice balance, we usually get paid more. Yeah, I get it. It's a little bit scary right now, but just make sure that you're getting what you deserve. Okay. And good luck. My interview with the manager was postponed one. Okay, so we answered that one. Hi, Jeff. I'm done with HC&T match. Few teams were there, I thought. Waiting on initial offer. Does hiring slowdown affect me? Some offers are being affected right now, but it might just mean you need to be patient for 1, 2, up to 4 weeks. Always refreshing to see you on top of this. I'm trying my best. Obviously, there's a lot of anxiety out there, clearly, and I just want to show like massive empathy. Like if I was in your shoes, I don't know how I'd feel. It's really scary to think about what's going on and all these unknowns, especially with like all of our dreams at stake, and a lot of people, these elite companies, the Googles of the world, are a dream. So yeah, thank you for that. I understand it's stressful. Okay, we're at the noon mark. I can see there's not a ton of comments left, so I'm going to roll through this as long as I can and try and get to everything today. Practiceinterviews.com. If you use the coupon code GET in all caps, you get 100 off of our interview mastery course till 11:59 Pacific time today. We do interview coaching, we do negotiation coaching. Sign up for our free Slack group. We have 9 free resources in the free resources section. I never pitch the blog, but I have a ton of blog articles that I think are pretty fun, really, really nice and snappy and short and sweet. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. We're past the 2-hour mark, which is awesome. Let's keep going. Be interesting to see if Google slowing down will cause candidates to drop out of the process. And when things open back in 2 to 4 weeks, there'll be less competition. Would be interesting. I'm not sure that there'll be less competition ever, but maybe. Okay, I'm going to go back to this initial one because I missed the second one. Yeah, this could be impacted and was downgraded to L3, but expected to be an SD2 in Amazon in 3 to 4 months. Any range in salary? Yeah, I need to know location. And thanks for all the videos on the behavioral. Sure. I would need to know location to help you on that one. I'm based in the US and would like to apply for the Zurich office. Can I still work with the North America recruiter? They'd probably transfer you. Yeah, they'd probably give you a recruiter in Zurich. Or somebody who's located in Europe who handles that region. Does the hiring packet contain info about level? Would it make any difference in getting L4 if the recruiter makes the profile as potential L4 rather than L3? The data would have to support that, so this is always driven by data. Just joined as well. Do we know L4 product managers at YouTube will be affected? I think it's possible that anybody would be impacted or affected. What is the anchor for an analyst role? Trust and safety, California. I'm not sure what level. You would have to tell me what market, because the Bay, LA, San Diego, they all pay differently. Hi, Jeff. I'm a new grad and got the offer. My start date is close, but I haven't got matched to a team. Would I go through the leadership team placement? Concerned about the current hiring pause. Yeah, I want you to go right back to your recruiter to find out what's going on here. Really check in with them, and I would do that right now. Hey, Jeff, I had my 3 on-site interviews on July 6th. Your videos were helpful. It's been 2 weeks and you haven't heard back, even after reaching out twice. Give it a few more days. Reach out again. Continue to reach out. Only when we hit the 3 to 4 week stage are we going to start to try and reach out to the coordinators, sourcer, interviewers. But for now, just try and stay a little bit patient if you can. I know that's difficult. L4 product. Okay. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for that. L4 product manager in Chicago. L4. I mean, L4 product manager Chicago. I mean, I think you should be making around 300K-ish. So maybe you're anchoring in the mid to high threes would be my recommendation. Okay, I think we answered this question. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, keep working on your skills. Remember, I think this was the self-belief, right? Like, yeah, feel like you're capable, and that's the biggest first step you can take. What is the salary level for an L3 analyst, trust and safety? Okay, so again, California, it's just the markets are different. Like LA is going to pay about 10% less than the Bay. Even though it shouldn't, because they're pretty comparable. And maybe San Diego is like 12 or 13% less. But if you're talking about the Bay, L3 analyst, trust and safety, I mean, I'd want your year one number to be as close to 200 as possible, but it'd probably be in the like mid to high ones. So you probably want to anchor in the twos, low twos. Just an insight from my chat with the director of CE, GCP is growing rapidly and beyond projections. Yeah, I think they're just doing a quick pause on GCP just to get it together a little bit. I think that's all it is. Thanks for your channel and videos. Help me pass my Google interview. So many thanks. Okay, this is awesome. Last week, I think we had about 15 to 20 of these, but this week there's only been a couple, but it's all good. Congrats. It shows the community it's possible. Thanks for letting us know. Had your on-site and the recruiter at Google reply back to me now saying they're waiting on headcount news. So does that mean going to HC is slim? We don't know. So again, we're just going to continue to ask everybody to try and be as patient as you can. That's all we can do. And about the hiring process for hardware engineers. Yes, so it's going to be this mix of technical and behavioral. That's really like any test engineer, hardware engineer, software engineer. It's going to be a mix of really hands-on technical domain skills and then a little bit on the behavioral side as well. Kenneth, if you want to tell us a little bit more about the DC position you're going after, is it a DC technician, program manager, site selection, deployments, capacity planning? What's the role? Hi, Jeff. Recruiter just told me if I verbally accept the offer now, they can give me an offer before 8/3 not affected. But I negotiate only once with a comp team. That's brutal. That's really tough. I don't know. I think you got to have a candid conversation with the recruiter and say, hey, look, can you just get me to X number? If you can get me to X, I'd be willing to sign. I would try and push back one more time, but have a candid conversation with them. If we hear more about this, this is going to start to be pretty tough. So I'm sorry you're in this situation. I'm done with the team match and my packet is about to be sent to HC review this week. Recruiter told me that they're hiring. Any chances of passing HC after 2 weeks? Absolutely. There's a great chance. Just depends on what they're going to do with your role. Okay. My interview got scheduled 2 times and now it's 1 month. Does Cloud Eng role hiring freeze? It sounds like they're just pausing for a couple weeks. So just stay in touch with your recruiter. Interviewed for an L4 SWE role. It's been 3 weeks now, post all interview rounds, but didn't get any reply from a recruiter even after following up. Continue to follow up. If you haven't heard back in another week or 2, go around them. Maybe 1 week. If it's been 4 weeks and you hear nothing, literally nothing, go to the coordinator, the sourcer, the interviewers if you can to try and get feedback. That's totally unacceptable. What happens at offer review is they're just checking the boxes to make sure that everything looks forward to move to the compensation round. I was never there when they had this step in the process. It used to be called like executive review. I think it's pretty similar to that. It's just a simplistic process of dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Offer given and accepted. Is there a chance they take the offer back? Very unlikely. Is there any chance why Google recruiters tend to not provide as much information on candidacy status, on why the hiring process takes so long, or is it just the competitive nature? No, it's a communication issue. I would provide as much non-confidential data as I could to my candidates. So I think it's just a communication challenge that they need to work on. Thank you so much for the content. You used it to prep for your analytics role. Finish your interviews this week and should hear back on a decision sometime next week. Cool. Keep us posted, okay? Okay, so this was the first part of this question. Sorry, I missed that. What happens at offer review? So it turns out the hiring manager is very interested in pushing for an offer and you're assuming packet is being prepared for offer review. Are we going ahead? I can't say for sure, but it sounds very positive. Thank you for all the hard work you do. Really appreciate everything you do. Absolutely. Okay. All right, Tushar. I don't know what we're talking about at this point, but since it's only been 7 minutes since this, I hope you're still here. I can't remember your Bay Area for what level and what role. Please remind me. Thanks for all you do. Total comp expectations for a CE role in the Midwest. I would need to know level that you're targeting. My recruiter said I cleared the HC and told me to fill out the G match form. It's almost 2 weeks. Recruiter told me to be patient and should hear back soon. With today's stuff going on, we don't know. Just stay in touch with your recruiter as much as you can. L6 CE Midwest, like Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio. Total comp should be right around 400. I would definitely be anchoring in the mid to mid higher fours. So like 454, 461, 7. Like I wouldn't go too much higher than like the 460s, something like that for an anchor. But total comp should be right around 400. Thanks to the content. My question is, what is this L3, L4? Everybody seems to know what you're talking about. L3 is level 3, L4 is level 4. L3 and L4 are typically designated levels for those that are slightly more junior candidates. So L3 is typically like 0 to 3 years of experience, 0 to 5 years. L4 is usually 3+ years of experience. It could be up to maybe 10 years of experience. I did do a video on that you can check out. It's just called Google Levels. I'm sure if you go onto YouTube, it would be the first hit. And that will tell you a little bit more about the ranges for levels. I hope that helps. Also, does the location preference help speed up the team matching? I mean, yeah. If you're going after a role in the Bay or New York, there's just going to be more openings, right? So I think the kind of weak answer is yes, it does, I think. I'm done with team match and about to appear for HC review this week. How 2 weeks hiring pause? I can't say for sure, just stay patient, okay? What should I anchor for a L5 SWE in India? Also L5 role with 4 years. That would be a stretch. Again, there's so much good data on this. I have helped some clients in India for these SWE roles, but I just want you to, I haven't had one and it's been a few months. So I would want you to really go on levels.fyi. There's such good information on SWEs, on levels, and just look at the median there and you'll get a good number, okay? It will be a stretch to get an L5, but that would be great if you can. Hi, Jeff. How long does it take VP offer letter approval process? It's been 5 days since the packet submitted. You could be facing part of the slowdown, so I would just touch base with your recruiter today. Thank you so much. Extremely helpful. Thank you for letting me know. Is a cloud engineer profile on freeze? I think we're hearing 2 to 4 weeks right now. Just a 2 to 4 week pause. Clear the RRK, GCA, AI, ML, migration. You have googliness and leadership. Should I talk to HR regarding the slowdown? Absolutely. If that's something you want to do, I think it's fine to talk to your recruiter about what's going on in your specific space, your specific role. Thanks for the content. Recruiter told me you have no roles available for TPM or program manager for security or compliance. The team matching time frame, Lewis, is there's no guarantees. 1 week, 1 year, it can take, it's just a total unknown, okay? So you're gonna have to do everything you can to stay in touch with your recruiter and continue to check in with them to see when open roles pop up. Is it possible to negotiate level after HC approval? You got approved for L4, but I think this is a lower responsibility than my current job. You have a competing offer for a lead eng. Not after HC, you can't. It's too late now. You can always go back and ask, but usually it's too late at this point. Okay, so total comp for L3, L4 in Austin. Can't answer that question because I don't know the role, and the role will dictate everything. How often do they update career sites? Very often, very up to date. Okay, this is coming in later. 5 of 5. So L3 team match HC completed, downgraded from L4. It's expected to be SD2 Amazon Bay Area. Downgraded from L4 was expected to be ST. All right, so I'm not sure. Are we talking about what you should be at Amazon, or you're expecting to be that at Amazon? Again, it's hard because the comments were so long ago that I can't remember everything. If you're talking about an L3 SWE at Google Bay Area, about 250 plus in year one. SDE2 at Amazon. I mean, Amazon hasn't been as competitive, but I'm a little just a tiny bit confused. Okay, so just tell us more if you need to. In the middle of my on-site interviews, I've completed 2 rounds and left with 2 more tomorrow and day after tomorrow, hoping to crack it. Okay, good luck. Let us know how it goes. I've been with team matching for a TPM new grad role for 5 months. You passed the interviews, referral. What is going on, what to do? Okay, so we answered this question earlier on, but since it's been so long, we'll come back to it. There's not a lot you can do, okay? We can't control this part of the process. We can stay in touch with our recruiter. We could even identify positions online to send to them. That usually doesn't work. I haven't really seen that work, but you can try, but there's really nothing else you can do. Finished all your interviews for a UX role and waiting for interviewers to submit feedback as of last week. Will the 2 hiring pauses affect candidates like me? They could. All you can do is stay in touch with your recruiter. Does one bad technical on-site mean you failed? Not necessarily. They might give you another chance, but remember, it is competitive. So ideally, you're doing great in every interview, but we'll just have to wait and see what the feedback says. Is there any way to get information about my sourcer or coordinator of interviews if my recruiter is not replying back? Yeah, you can reach out to them and say, hey, what's going on? I'm not getting any feedback. Can you please help me? It's been weeks since I've heard back from my recruiter. So yes, go around them. Hey, Jeff, just finished team matching for L3 SWE, iOS, and SF. My recruiter said that I should think of compensation. Any tips in what ballpark, similar to other SWEs? Yeah, I mean, for an L3 SWE, I mean, I'm probably anchoring in the high 2s, maybe low 3s. But somewhere in the mid 2s is what you should expect in year 1. L4 CE total comp, I would need to know the location. How do I know what level I was assigned for SWE after passing HC, L3, or L4? Yes, you can absolutely ask your recruiter, and the fact that they didn't tell you is poor communication on their end. L3, L4 hardware eng in Austin. I would hope that the L3 would get you to around high 1s, maybe around 2, and then that the 4 would ideally get you into maybe the mid 2s. So you're going to anchor higher than that. I got an offer from a different backup option company the same day as Google interviews. How can I navigate keeping that offer on the table while waiting for Google result? I just did a video on this, and one of the most recent videos I did, so definitely check out those recent uploads. It's right in there. You're gonna have to gently push back, but the timing's really tricky just because of all the hiring freeze stuff. So you may have to accept and then burn a bridge if Google comes back and decides to hire you. Accepted an offer, just met the manager, chose equipment, username. Any chance this could be rescinded? Kyle, it's very, very unlikely. I haven't really heard of that happening. There's probably unique one-off cases, but it's unlikely. Does the presentation round last round have as much weight, or does this round hold others' CE role? Same weight. Comp expectations. L3, L4, Business Systems Analyst Manager, BI Intelligence, Operations, New York City. I would hope that you could get to the high 1s for L3, mid 2s for L4, so you need to anchor higher for both if you're in the comp negotiation phase. How do I know who is my sourcer or interviewers as my recruiter is not replying? Well, if you don't know, then I don't know how to tell you. If we have a sourcer, it means they were our first point of contact and they removed us onto a recruiter. That doesn't always happen. If you have a recruiting coordinator, you would have needed to hear from them directly. If you don't have those data points, you don't have them. And I unfortunately, I can't help with that. But if you have those data points, you should be reaching out to them. We are all going through the pain of Google Loop together. These live streams help me feel not alone. Okay, Bradley, thank you. Yeah, I can really feel the pain and the pressure today, right? Like it does feel a little painful, right? We're all experiencing it together. And I can see, over the last couple of weeks, it's impacted my business, So I'm happy to tell the audience that, right? Like I've seen a little bit of slowing on my end. So yeah, we're all feeling the pain and we need the community to hold each other up. And we need to get through this, but a lot of patience and gratitude when we reach out to the points of contact. Because remember, the people internally at Google are facing stress as well. Thanks for that. Total comp for CE, L4CE. L4CE, I'm trying to think of my most recent. You should be getting into the 300s, 320, 330, something like that. So be anchoring maybe high threes for that. Tomorrow I have the presentation interview, how many slides, the depth of the technical content. They should have told you, I think, it should be 7 slides. Your recruiter absolutely should have told you the number of slides. If they didn't, wow, that's a big deal. You got to practice it. Make sure, I think I'm just feeling like I recently had a 10-slide deck too. So they might have changed the criteria on that. Ask your recruiter. Find the balance of technical and business because your audience should be a hybrid of both, okay? Make sure you practice that presentation as much as you can today. Thanks for doing this live and answering our question. Hope Google appreciates what you're doing for their candidate pipeline. I'm not sure that they care, but that's okay. I'm doing it for all of you. I'm not doing it for them, right? I'm doing it so that people get insight into Google and any other organization. I'm here to help, but I'm not sure that they care what I'm doing. And I think that they probably appreciate that I keep the information generic enough that I'm not providing any confidentiality issues, but I'm not sure how much they care, but interesting to talk about. Thanks for answering all of our patients and answering our queries with patience. I try to have as much patience as I can, so I hope that shows up. Customer engineer, ML, Bay Area, what's the level? I passed HC for SWE ML, L4, but a hold. Recruiter said you have an ML coding interview different from ML design, but didn't provide any information. No, just rely on your experience and expertise. That's going to be the fuel and funnel for your success. Okay, I'm going to wrap up. If any last minute comments come in, I'll answer them. Practiceinterviews.com. Just today, get GET in all caps. You can get $100 off our interview mastery course. I do practice interviews. I do negotiation coaching. It's got a great ROI, but at practiceinterviews.com, we have a ton of free resources. I do these lives every week. I do a ton of YouTube content. So I'm here to be a free service. If you want to purchase services, obviously I'm happy to do that for you. If you didn't hit that like button today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. This was the biggest audience that I've had in terms of length of time that we held at big numbers. So it's been awesome. I'm going to finish out these comments and bounce off, okay? Thanks for the content. Learned you made it to the team match, SWE, on Monday, but you haven't heard back. No, I think it's okay to reach out today or tomorrow. You're welcome. LEO trying to get into leadership support offices for program manager, ETM role, 7 years of experience, advice showcasing physical and technical security. Okay, so yeah, I would just say really build those strong domain skills, figure out how you're going to bring those domain skills in on the open-ended side, and then absolutely practice your behavioral answers. I know that's pretty generic. Okay. So law enforcement, looking to transition to the private sector and you're a veteran, you only have an associate's degree in criminal justice. So again, One of the most important items is to think about transferable skills. The associates piece, based on your experience, probably is fine. It's probably good enough, but you need to start by having some of the foundational knowledge, whatever that might be. So whether that's taking a course, whether that's spending time networking and talking with other people in the space, that's going to be part of your plan. And then joining lives like this, learning from the community, join our Slack group, etc. Those will all be items that will help. You're welcome. You are welcome. Okay, yeah, and this is common. You're just going to have to stay patient. Sometimes we finish and the team match stage can be really painful. The team matching stage, program manager L5, what compensation should I ask? That L5 program manager comp should get into the low threes, so I would be anchoring in the 350s, 360s. Waiting for an L3 offer letter, Google Bay, maybe as a bargaining chip, your current role at Amazon, okay, is expected to be SD2. They don't care. They only care about the level, the location, and job, right? So you can't really use that as a bargaining chip. You can use it to push back for your own good, but they don't care. Yeah, absolutely. Anchor higher than 250. I would anchor high twos at least, maybe into the low threes, but you should expect around 250. Last week, recruiter told me you're going into team matching. Yesterday, you got an email about the slowdown. Any good questions to ask them? Yeah, just say, hey, like, how is this impacting my space, my role? All around done, but unable to find a hiring manager. Again, very common. So you're just going to have to stay patient, stay in touch with your recruiter. Okay, just announced a hiring freeze. Okay, we'll have to check on the news on that. Okay. I'm in the interview process and I made a mistake in my resume I shared with Google. I jumbled up the duration information working with a company. Should I let them know the same? If you get to the end stages and you're getting to that pre-background check, you'll let them know. But beforehand, you don't need to let them know right now. Got an offer from TikTok. They're bigger companies known as ByteDance. Okay, I've been waiting over 3 weeks for a first round interview with Google, despite giving them availability 2 weeks ago. I told your recruiter you just got the TikTok offer. Thoughts on strategy? This is going to be really tough. I'm going to recommend take the offer with TikTok, but stay in touch with Google and just see what you can do to push the process. After passing HC, if we're willing to wait because of the slowdown, there's no current time frame. Does Google hiring freeze mean new grads will have lower chances of getting an offer? Can't say for sure, but I would say probably. Is it easy to get fired? It depends on the company. At Google, it's very, very hard to get fired. They will do everything they can to make sure you're successful before you get fired. What is a good total comp anchor L4 SWE ML AI in Chicago? I mean, just because it's AI ML, I would be anchoring in the high threes, would be my recommendation. Just finished my second final round for an ITSE at Google. Unfortunately, my recruiter is out of office. There's a hiring freeze, it seems like, across the board for the next 2 to 4 weeks. So just stay in touch with your recruiter. If they're out of office, I don't think that will impact anything right now. The hiring freeze does say current offers won't be affected. Does current offers mean verbal or written? Probably verbal. Okay. Okay. It says that it's going to be for 2 weeks. Okay, that's kind of the feedback we're getting. Completed all my interviews for a BDR public sector cloud role. How long after interviews? If you haven't heard back in 5 business days, follow up. There seems to be a 2-week freeze on cloud roles. Does canceling an offer after accepting have impact? Are candidates allowed to reapply in that case? They can, but it will be a little bit of a red mark, okay? Because you accepted and then you're backing out. So it will be something they'll take into consideration in the future. One point in the interview process do you learn about level for the role? You can ask at any point, but they may not tell you until you pass HC. My recommendation is, well, what is the range we're targeting? L4, L5, L5, L6? Usually giving them a range usually opens them up a little bit. Would you call you were a contractor at a Mang employer? Is it frowned upon if you don't mention that? No, you work there. It's the same thing, okay? You don't have to call it out. At this point, okay, I'm gonna call it after 2.5 hours. Thank you everybody so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and have a great day.